Okay. Hello and welcome, everyone. Sorry we're getting off to a few minutes delayed start. The summer slowed everything down, and I do apologize too if you have any friends who are trying to access the Zoom link. We're working on that. We're having some Zoom technical difficulties, but we were going to be posting a link to the Holliston Public Schools Facebook page. So if you hear of anyone having issues, please direct them there. Okay. So welcome to the August 24th to 2023 Holliston School Committee meeting. Hope everyone had a great summer, some time to relax and recharge. We've got a decent schedule here today. Over the summer, Don, I, and other members of the school committee, as well as the administration, have been working hard to get back to school this year, and we are looking forward to seeing the progress that we've made. So with that, let's get into our agenda. We have a consent agenda, but I think we need to modify the minutes that we're going to approve tonight, because I was very ambitious and hoped that we didn't have all of them, but figured better to have them on there and not. So I think what we're ready to approve are the June 1, June 15th regular session meetings, the June 20th regular session meeting, but not the executive session, and then the August 16th regular and executive to be approved but not distributed. That's what we have. Did I miss any?
No.
With the mini sent out the June 1st executive, so we can do that too.
Yeah. I sent ones too for executive session. That was from May, but that's okay.
Do you want to do the June 1st now?
No, it's fine.
Okay, so we'll get that on.
No, so do you want to, are we pulling them out? Because I wasn't at the 15th meeting, so I can't confirm the whole consent agenda. I have to abstain.
So you can vote on all these. If you would prefer not to, we can pull them out and do it like that. But I'm just saying, there's nothing against
No,
not
I know.
allowing you to
Just
do
because
it.
I wasn't there, I don't feel.
So which one do you want to pull out?
15th.
Okay. So then, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the June 15th regular session minutes. All in favor?
Yeah. Moved by Mika?
Oh, you're right.
Second by Don.
Okay. All in favor?
Yep.
Aye. Okay. That
I'm
carries.
abstaining.
It's going to be a, 5-1-1. Okay, and then other than that, so we'll be voting on the June 1st. The June 1st regular and executive to be approved but not released. The June 20th regular session, and then we're going to pull, and then the August 16th regular and executive session to be approved but not released, and we're not going to be doing the June 26th or June 30th. All right, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the warrants.
Moved by Cynthia.
Second.
All in favor? Yes? Aye?
Yeah.
Okay, that carries. Okay, we'll move on to communications, and we have a request from a student for dual enrollment. We'll handle that first. Yeah, please. If you'd like to come up to, or okay, great. Just state your name and let us know what's going on.
Okay, my name is Hayden Monty. I'm a rising senior at Holliston. I've been here for all 4 years of high school, and I am approaching the school committee today for a case on dual enrollment with English 102 at UMass Dartmouth. For a bit of context, junior year I took English 101 at UMass because of a scheduling conflict that I got approval from Mrs. Bottomley directly for. I approached her again this year to do the same thing, hoping that I could continue the courses that aligned together, and I did not get approval. So I followed up with the steps and followed up with Dr. Kuska, but unfortunately she affirmed Bottomley's decision. So now, with that, I'm coming to the school committee. I did email Mr. Alfred formally with a bunch of reasons why I believe that I should be allowed to do the dual enrollment on the grounds of it was code. I just remember, what was the code? code IKFH-P. And I believe that the code mentions that all options of the student at Holliston should be considered, and all outside options, including dual enrollment, should be considered. With that, I believe that there is no grounds of denying a student the dual enrollment opportunity. And with that, I also have some reasons why it would be beneficial to accept that dual enrollment opportunity. Firstly, there is another scheduling conflict, which I do understand that all students must go through. And these are not core classes, but these are classes that I have been very excited to take over my course in Holliston. 3 important courses would be guitar. I've been very interested in playing guitar, and I'm actually doing a senior project this year where I'm making an album, so I feel that would be very beneficial for a class that I am already taking. Other classes would include sociology, which I have been very interested in, as I'm also taking AP Psych this year. Other reasons would be that there is a heavy learning gap in between the 2 courses, and by that I mean there's actually some overlap. Because I would be, if I were not to take the course, I would be taking AP Literature. And this course has some information that was already in English 101 that I've already taken. So the overlap would be some time that would be wasted in not learning, which I know is my main purpose here at Holliston. Another reason would be that one of my top choices to go to college is UNC, and they do not accept any AP English credit. For English core classes, they accept them for humanities only. I do have the core curriculums for both English 101 and 102 here with me, if you'd like to look at them, as well as a letter of recommendation from admissions from Tracy Wallace at UMass Dartmouth.
I shared everything you sent me with the committee.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. Yes, UNC Chapel Hill does not accept those as core credits, so taking dual enrollment would allow me to get those credits if I end up going there, because they accept transfer credits. After going with Bottomley, I think I went to Principal List recently, and he believes that taking both English 101 and 102 would create a smoother transition into college. And I think that is it. But I do have paper record of the letter from Ms. Tracy from UMass. I would like to ask for approval for this course.
And what was your understanding of why Principal Bottomley denied the request this year?
It's on it, just before I'd just like to give Susan sort of an opportunity just to sort of present if you want, or we can go right to questions. It's up to you.
So just given the fact that Nicole Bottomley had left, I did talk with Hayden, and I talked with his mom. We had a nice conversation, and I do support Hayden, and I support all students trying to take opportunities. When I spoke with Marnie Harwitz, the guidance counselor as well, there were some more pieces to the puzzle. And some of this is conflicting, and I think this procedure is very outdated and needs to be updated. And I feel like because of that, I don't know that it applies to this situation. One of the issues I have is that it talks about dual enrollment being one or more college courses, and then it's sponsored by Department of Education and paid by the state. Well, that's not what this is, because DESE doesn't even, that I'm aware, offer that. If they may have at one point when this was available. And I think the family was offering to pay for it, and that's what they were planning to do, if I'm not mistaken. So,
You might be on that.
Oh.
So last year, whether it was the state or UMass Dartmouth, it was paid for. We didn't have to pay for it.
okay, then I must have misunderstood that, because I think last year, because it didn't fit in his schedule, but I thought this year I had heard that the family was paying for it themselves, but maybe I misunderstood that.
I mean, we would if we had to.
Okay.
From what Tracy Wallace, UMass Dartmouth said, she said that she thinks they're going to get even more funding for the program.
Okay, thank you for
because of the
sharing that.
change in governorship.
I do have record in email that Tracy Wallace from UMass gave me, speaking on the fact that they get their own funding for the dual enrollment program, and they have always had extra, which is one thing I find equitable about this, that I can actually take that course.
And the other, we talked about the equity concerns, that there are many students in similar situations, and part of this is our high school schedule has our AP classes that are scheduled 3 terms. And there are many students that don't have this opportunity to do this. It's a concern we have that I do think needs to be addressed and figure out ways to support students. But if you look at the criteria, that it would also be, the principal looked at options still available at the high school. Last year, because of the schedule being locked, Hayden was not able to take 101, and that's why he was allowed to take it, because we allow students to take courses that they can't get at Holliston High at another, like sometimes tech courses, we prefer those. And because both the counselor and the principal affirmed that he would be able to fit this into his schedule. Now, yes, he can't take the extra electives, which is true of other students, and that was the issue, that there's a lot of students that would fall into this. But also, Mr. List, because he was trying to support, his alternative was that he could still take that, which would allow him to get the credit for college that he's looking for, but he'd still have to fit his criterion for high school, and he could take electives in English as well. And that would be 2 terms, which would also free up another term for him to do one of his electives, the guitar or something that you wanted to do. So I felt that I felt that it didn't meet the criteria as well, which is why I affirmed what the counselor and the principal were saying.
So this was reviewed by the guidance counselor with respect to the schedule and what is available here for him to take?
Right, we typically only allow students to take something dual enrollment if it's something that we cannot offer to them.
Right, like Mandarin.
And we have a lot of students taking ALS and things like that because it's not, and again, we prefer to take them through tech, but this is a different situation, dual enrollment with college. And again, there are situations where we have allowed students to do dual enrollment, but it doesn't seem to meet the criteria that's set out in the procedure and the policy.
Okay,
of
so
the
there
procedure.
is still room available in the schedule for him to take. Would this be AP English Literature instead of
I
an
believe
English
you're
102?
scheduled currently for the 3 terms of AP Literature, correct?
Okay. Is your understanding of the procedure that it would fall under the circumstances where, say, if someone wanted to take like a computer science C, or if we were in a situation where we didn't offer a particular AP class, like let's say we weren't offering AP music theory, that this procedure would apply to this?
That's how I look at it. I feel like last year was not even really dual enrollment. It was that because it couldn't fit into a schedule, we offered other options, and that's part of the handbook as well, Keith, right? That kids can take courses outside, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we can,
If there's something unique that they want to take
Right,
that's
I mean,
not
what-
offered, which is
we
not
have
dual
Tech
enrollment,
Or
though.
obviously, there's Greenfield if you wanted to fully enroll, or, and we do some EduSeer, but we're trying to wind that down a little bit, so.
Is that considered, though, dual enrollment?
No,
No,
it's
that's
not
what I'm
dual
saying,
enrollment.
that's
Those are
not-
individual
Right,
courses.
I was just
no.
gonna,
That-
you and I
that's
have had
what
that
I'm saying. Last year it
conversation,
was not
right?
dual enrollment, it was that
Right.
because he couldn't fit it, we were allowing him to
Right.
take it elsewhere.
And he couldn't fit it because the classes were already filled?
I think it was just other things in his schedule. I have not seen what the previous schedule looked like.
I could speak to that.
Okay, thank you.
There were numerous AP courses that I was wanting to take last year, and a lot of them were conflicting with the schedule that I had because of what block AP Lang was in. So because I was able to move that by taking English 101, it opened up some more of the AP courses that I was able to take. This year, because AP Literature is 3 terms, it does a similar thing because the last term frees up some of the space that I would be able to take more classes. This year, in my schedule already, I have AP Stat, AP Macro, AP Psych, and AP Physics. And I was looking to try to get a 5th one in. However, AP Lit would not fit with some of the other courses that I would want to take because macro is an online and it also moves some of the courses around. I also implore you to look at the wording of code IK HP dash. Yeah, IKFH-P, where it says to consider the options at Holliston and to consider the options elsewhere, including dual enrollment, because as of now, it does not really take away the ability for a student to do dual enrollment. It just offers an alternative without any grounds of denial, really.
So it sounds like we're looking for a justification as to why we should let you do this where we may be saying no to other students and the equity issues and so forth.
Right.
Right? Because we want to make sure we're fair to every student, which is really important.
And I think that's something we know about our high school schedule is that it does lock students out from taking multiple offerings, but I think that, again, it would apply to multiple students. And as the counselor said, it's unfortunate, but students have to make difficult decisions sometimes because of that schedule. Something that we do want to look into, and timing is unfortunately off for Hayden right now, but it
Yes.
is.
But, so I'm wondering if, it sounds like last year Hayden was able to take 101 in place of AP Lang because of the scheduling issue. And I'm hoping, or I'm wondering, it sounds like you know more about the curriculum of 101 and 102 and how it relates to Lang and Lit. You have information about that. So I wonder if that information could help us sort of see this as like a continuation of last year, which we were able to justify because of the scheduling conflict. And now we're saying as a result of the scheduling conflict last year, that reasoning makes it necessary for him to continue at UMass instead of here because the courses aren't exactly aligned or something like that. So that the reasoning would be.
Students, though, like on the same thing, like scheduling conflicts. Since I've been here, they've been denied.
Okay, so how many students does that affect? And more specific,
I don't know.
how many for those students? Is it like the second course in a row or the second year? You know what I'm saying? So if this were like a first time for Hayden, that would be different because I feel like that would be more comparable to maybe those other cases. But I'm wondering if we could use that as our justification for Hayden, saying that, well, he was put on this track last year as a result of the scheduling conflict. And now the best option for him in light of that is to continue with 102 because those courses are more aligned than going on 101 and then going to AP Lit.
And I don't have that data, unfortunately. We don't have that data. I mean, without having that in front of us, if I found out there's 50 other kids over there, I just don't know what to say about that.
Personally, and you probably can too from your own kids' experience, that my kids have been denied because they haven't been able to fit different things in their schedule, and they have to juggle and just move on because we have a block schedule and you can only fit in so many things. So they weren't able to take the third AP or the fourth AP.
They could have availed themselves at least of trying to appeal.
Sure, but also doesn't preclude them from saying, I'm going to take a college course outside of the regular schedule day, which it was always open to them to do.
And I also, having watched a student go through AP English Language and Composition and then AP English Literature, they really are two separate courses. I guess I think that if the guidance counselor, the teacher, principal understand these to be two separate courses, feel like it might be, I mean, would you feel the same way if it was algebra and geometry, that we allowed you once to do this for algebra so then you could do it for geometry later? Because I do feel that they're two separate courses, and while if it doesn't fit in the schedule at all because he's blocked out, it's full, that's a different situation. I mean, we're dealing with a procedure which has two criteria: the opportunities and options available to the student. So if the opportunity of AP English Literature is available, and then what's available to the new proposed setting. It's interesting, your argument about being able to get English credit at one particular school, and I know you're probably applying to many schools and you're not sure, that's not like a certainty. I just don't know if that's something contemplated under this procedure, the fact that I will be applying to one particular school and this is what their criteria is. In looking at what that specific school accepts, was there any limit on, like many schools will say, we'll only accept 3 AP credits or we'll only accept 1 transfer credit? Are you aware of any of that?
I've been looking at all of the
Okay.
AP credit allowment, and for UNC, they accept, I believe, up to 36 credits of AP courses as it is, but they also just have certain credits that they only accept for humanities. But one thing I would like to mention about the track of doing both English 101 and 102 is that the two courses coincide with one another. There are parts of English 101 that are in AP Lang and in AP Lit, and there are parts of English 102 that are in AP Lang and AP Lit. So not taking English 101, I'd have missing information from AP Lang that I have not taken at all because I took English 101, and I would have missing information from 102 and overlapping information in some cases from both courses.
So it's not like 101 corresponds to Lang and 102
Yeah.
corresponds to Lit.
They actually bond. They just bond to each other. And when I talked to Principal List, he did mention how other schools, even in our district, actually have students take both courses as well. So if that's something to consider, how I've already taken one, then I should take both.
Of all the reasons that you've given, what is your top priority?
My top priority would be the way that I'm learning, because, and let me explain that because that's very vague, but I'm concerned with the information that I'm getting at school and learning. I've always been a big school person, so I've been very interested in every class, even if I didn't like them. For me, actually, English was not my strong suit at all, but I've always just been interested in learning it. And I know that if I take AP Lit, it will hinder my ability to learn information that I should be learning.
Can you expound upon that just a little bit?
Just because of the fact that the college courses don't line up with the high school courses. And since I've already taken one, not taking the other one would stop me from getting information from one of those from AP Lang and AP Lit, and from AP Lang and overlapping information from AP Lit, because they're not like bound to each other.
Sure, this year, but I'm just playing devil's advocate here. You're going to have 4 years of college with which to take all the classes that you can possibly imagine. Then you can go and get your master's, you can go get your PhD or other. I mean, I'm just, you have your entire life ahead of you to continue to learn. So what we're trying to do today is determine if it's necessary right now for you to do this now, right? Because UNC is an awesome school, and I certainly hope you get in as a graduate there myself. But so I'm trying to figure out. It's tough.
Okay.
Was the counselor able to review the syllabus or curriculum that's covered in AP Lang and in AP English Lit? I imagine she's familiar with that. And was she also able to review the proposed syllabus for English 102?
I
to
can't
match up?
speak to how deep she went in, but I
But
have
she
to
did
trust
review it?
counselors that she did look into what Hayden shared with her, and she did have some concerns, similar because she's had multiple students in similar situations, and she just really had concerns that we're creating another inequity for our other students, and that was a big concern where we do feel that Holliston can offer what Hayden needs. So I personally felt that I had to trust in our staff. We have amazing teachers and counselors here, and I have to rely on their expertise to do those, and I trust that she did her due diligence on that as well.
Okay, so that information was provided to her as part of this. Okay.
And so why was Mr. List's sort of compromise solution not really amenable to you?
I believe that, well, for me, when I am going to college, I'm looking for, my goal is to get my PharmD, which is usually a program that involves skipping the bachelor's degree and going straight to the program after doing your prerequisites. However, for someone trying to do a dual degree with the MBA, the School of Business requires a bachelor's degree, meaning that I would have to finish the bachelor's and I would have to take all the more time doing that. Taking this course would not only enter me as a sophomore in college because of all the rest of the AP credit that I will be receiving. But it can ensure the fact that I will have way less years of doing college work that are not part of my major, allowing me to focus on getting my major and allowing me to focus on my future and in my career.
Can I just add something to that, to your question? If given the situation where you said about him still taking English here and then he can still take 102 on his own, that option does require us to pay for the course, and not at a reduced rate. Now we're talking, as a family, we have to dish out $1,300 for that course. I don't know what time he would find to do basically double in English in a school year with 4 other APs, but that's a heavy burden.
I could mention, outside of the 4 APs and hopefully the college course, I have 2 swim teams, competitive swim teams, one of which is here. I'm a captain, and I will also be doing NHS work, my own separate volunteer work. I have done much more hours than just NHS requires, even outside stuff that I don't typically put in there that I've done since I graduated from elementary school. But as of now, looking at my schedule, I don't think I'd have the time to do a second English course outside of high school.
Can I just ask, I just don't know enough about this and I'm trying to learn more. What is the downside for us saying yes to more students who want to, because we keep talking about like, why would we say yes to Hayden and say no to so many others? What's the downside for us saying yes to more dual enrollments?
That would have been my question, so thank you for
I mean,
asking
over
that.
time, it could have an impact to needing less courses or something. I really can't say
I
until
think
we.
so, but it's not like you're not saying you would take this class and then replace AP English with a study hall, right? The 3 semesters of this would be guitar, sociology, and I forget what the third one was, right? But like,
yeah.
it's not like you're
not
going to be taking fewer courses at
I'd
Holliston
be
High
taking more
School.
courses. Yeah.
You would just be taking this in addition to a full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So it
that's
actually-
not statutory, right? That just happens to be the person that he is. I mean,
Right. Okay,
Right.
but we're saying
Right.
although Hayden, yeah.
so I'm just saying, like, I think we all
You don't
agree that we
wanna
need to
have other
review this.
students
For sure. I guess
And
my,
have
The procedure.
right, the procedure/0 policy, which doesn't make any sense. So just a little bit of background on that part of it for you to understand. There is no policy that's associated with it. MASC, which is the Association of School Committees, does not have a policy around programs because it's really up to the individual district about what they offer. This was something that has been kind of, was supposed to be discussed along with the process of vision of a graduate, along with Ms. Bodley, who is obviously not here at this point. So it kind of leaves us in an odd place, is what I would say. I do think that from my perspective, that dual enrollment was supposed to be for classes that we could not provide at Holliston High School. So like if a student wanted to take Mandarin, they could take it at, in this way. It provided another avenue for them to take a course we don't offer. But we do offer AP English, which would give you also credit towards college as well if you get a 3 or above, right? And your college of choice would actually give you that credit, right? Like you're looking at UNC, Chapel Hill, and they will accept the AP credit. I don't see the downside for you taking
No,
this
UNC will not
class.
accept the AP.
Pardon me?
UNC will not.
It will not accept
They'll accept
it?
it as a humanities credit, but they won't accept it as an English.
Okay.
They don't take
And
it.
you want to test out of as many of your requirements as possible, so you can take classes for your majors.
That would put me in.
So,
get it.
I do have the question again about like if we were to
Oh,
try giving him and other students more dual enrollment, where does it lead us to? Does it truly have a downside, or are we
It's a
just
financial impact. And
Right.
It could alter how many teachers
Right.
you have here.
Well, no, I mean, not if we were to write the policy or the procedure right and say basically you can't do a dual enrollment if you're just going to take a study hall or you're doing it to lighten your Holliston High School
That's what I was gonna say.
Class
It
group.
sounds
It's
like
a little
this
bit
policy
jumping
doesn't
the,
exist.
it's to me.
No,
jumping
I'm just saying.
I
it's a-
don't see a reason for us to say no to students like Hayden who want to continue having a full 4-period, 4 semesters schedule and then take a 5th course or whatever as the dual
It's
enrollment.
not, it's replacing
Could we
it.
put that in as part of our policy? I know we can't do that tonight, so that you could enroll in dual enrollment if it didn't eliminate one of your classes here in Holliston. And I know we can't do that tonight, but maybe this is something for us to think about for the future. But in the meantime, also, I just feel like I need to say, this is totally off the cuff, but block scheduling, like, it's time for us to review it. It's just another thing. But that's irrelevant. But anyway, I don't want us to sort of like disenfranchise Hayden because it's going to take us a year or two to create this new policy, to relook at our schedule. You know what I mean?
This is really tough. Usually,
Yeah.
usually I'm a pretty opinionated person and can make a decision on how I feel, and
Let me put something in perspective, though. So I've met with the counselors. They have denied everybody that they want, if it's unless we do not offer it, it is denied. So
I mean,
that's the
I
tough
hear them,
thing.
I just don't understand why.
but no one has appealed it to us. So to me,
Exactly.
that doesn't. That's kind of a moot.
Right.
That's sort of a moot point because
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, you have denied, it's not like you have been any different to him. It's
Right.
just that they didn't come to
I
us.
think I'm trying to understand when it was accepted, what was the criteria of basing the acceptance? And that's what
It was
we,
not offered. in
okay, so,
Holliston Public
and that's the point.
or a true check
So
scheduling
if it
conflict.
truly is that we don't offer it, and that is why we're offered the exceptions, but we do offer this course that also provides credit.
Is one of your English lit the same course?
No.
But we approved 101 last year,
Cover language,
and there's
but not
overlap
together.
with the existing. So in some ways, we've kind of, by accepting and allowing him to do 101, we've kind of put him in a bind to either retake some of the stuff that he's already taken already, if we don't accept 102.
The counselor that's reviewed both and is familiar with it doesn't support that. That concerns me. I understand his reading of what the.
But we don't know that they've helped you. I mean, we trust their opinion, but at the same time, I don't want to make conjecture, but.
If I could say something about the equity portion, I know some of you are concerned with how it's not equitable for me to take this course where so many other students have been denied it. However, I know that within the policy, where it specifically, as of now, it says that dual enrollment should be considered, as well as the options here at Holliston. It doesn't directly say that you shouldn't be able to take it if there's something here at Holliston that you can take instead. It just says that it should be considered. And I know that for a lot of the students who are looking for dual enrollment, I feel sorry for them just because I know that since the policy hasn't been too clear, that they haven't been able to go about this. But I've been doing like a lot of work with this policy just to, try to understand it and as it stands. And I see it as a policy that allows people to take dual enrollment here at Holliston just as one of their options because it asks just to consider both. So if you're worried about equity, I believe that that shouldn't be a problem because as the policy stands, it should be allowing more people to take dual enrollment as an option.
So okay. So does anyone else have any sort of additional stuff that we want to talk about? Because we do have a lot of other things on the agenda.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that in the second portion of that, it says, in this program, the student takes college courses and receives appropriate high school credit for college courses, not high school credit for college courses. It's the other way around. It's college credit to get high school classes.
But you're
So
not.
that's the intent
But
of
he's
it.
not looking at this.
I get that, but that's what the intent is that you're taking appropriate class at another school in order to get high school credit, not for you to get college credit.
So
Does that
here's
make
where I
sense?
think that maybe we can thread the needle between setting precedent and still giving us time to relook at this and sort of clarify things. For me, I think, I'm still wrestling with this, the fact that he was approved to do 101 last year, and that creates in some ways a conflict between what we now offer at the school is a rationale that is
Except for Ms. Bottomley denied the 102, and she knew that she's the one that.
No, I understand that,
approved the 101, right?
but we wouldn't be here if she'd accepted it. So, to me, that sort of differentiates this from just someone else wanting to take another class.
And he started this by not allowing him to fit his junior year English into the schedule. You know what I mean? It's not like he asked to take 101 and we said yes.
Right.
We said, your option is you must take 101 because of our schedule.
I think we
And
need
he's
to.
correct in the fact that 102 will take up time for, like, for in his college as well, because 102 is an
Well, not-
essential course,
yeah,
I believe,
that
that
to
he
me
would
is-
have to take.
That to me is a little bit worrying about your college is less of our concern. Not that it's not. We don't want you to.
I understand.
Please take that for what it's worth. It's just that as far as what we're doing here, that's less of a reason. But I think that we set you down a path. Or not we, but the administration sets you down a path. Where are other people? I guess let's do sort of like a straw poll, or just where people think that they're coming out. Because
I mean, I think we should approve this because it looks like we have a lot more to iron out. I also completely agree with Dr. Kuska's reasoning to deny this because your job is to back up your principals and guidance counselors and everything. But I also think that we're a separate body and have heard new information. We're more focused on policy. And it looks to me like via the policy, which is what the school committee focuses on, I don't see a reason to deny it.
So
I think so, too.
It certainly is your decision, and that's why I said to Hayden and his mother that I would suggest that that's what he do. Again, I'm going to say this is not, yes, I do my best to support staff and administration and students, right? I care about the student here.
Yeah.
But I just want to clarify, the reason I ultimately felt I could not move forward was because of the fact that the counselor did review everything and felt that they were equivalent. So yes, there might be some slight differences, like when you transfer classes into college and all that. So again, I consider the counselors the experts in this area because they've been doing it for so many years, and I just want to clarify, it wasn't just that I support the staff, because I absolutely support the student.
That's true.
But I felt that she had done her due diligence and had been fair in her assessment of the courses.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I don't think you were not supporting the student when you made that decision. I think you do what you always do, which is look to best support everyone.
And I think I do agree with Amanda that, I think there's a lot that we need to still iron out. There's a lot that we need to learn. And I feel this could actually open a way for us to learn more and maybe make changes either way.
one thing I'll say before we go any further too, Hayden, I'm incredibly impressed with your poise and your I mean, just to sit up here and listen to us argue back and forth and to interject at appropriate. I'm very impressed. It's wonderful to see this. So regardless of how this ends up coming out, I think you should be very, very proud. And
We should record this and send it to you.
It is really fantastic to watch you advocate for yourself on this issue and identify this is something you want to be so focused on your future. All of that being said, my reading of this policy is the criteria, the opportunities. Are they available here at Holliston High School? Looking at the opportunities that they're requesting, I just don't see how it falls in. I really don't. I think I see these as two separate courses, and as incredibly hard as that is, and I'm really excited that you are taking the 4 or 5 different AP classes this year, and I wish you all the luck in it. But I just don't think this procedure fits what you're asking for, and I have some serious hesitations about overturning or flipping the recommendations and review of the guidance counselor, who would be very familiar with the AP English literature syllabus as compared to the AP English composition, language and composition syllabus, along with her review of the syllabus within English 101 and 102. So for those reasons, I'm not willing to flip the decision of the guidance counselor on this one. But I am so impressed with you on this, and thank you.
I'll have to concur with Dawn on this. I actually don't see that it's anything markedly different that we don't already provide here in Holliston, and that's one part of the main criteria here for overturning it. But I am so impressed for you coming in here and advocating for yourself, and I do wish you the best in your entire senior year and whatever you do beyond this. So thank you.
Sarah, do you have any thoughts?
I'm afraid I agree with Dawn and Cynthia as well. I just think that we do have these courses here in Holliston, and I don't feel comfortable overturning the counselors. I feel like they do have the expertise here, so, yeah. But again, incredibly impressive, so.
Is there confirmation of Mrs. Harwich, like, looking into 101 and 102? Because I knew nothing of that. And then what Tracy Wallace from UMass said to me was that they didn't, like, there was a disagreement on the phone, and it seemed from her opinion that Mrs. Harwich wasn't understanding what she was saying.
We do have more emails
Do we know that
from
she
Tracy
looked at
Wallace.
101 and 102?
I spoke at length with Marnie this summer after
Manny.
we talked, I'm sorry, Manny Howard this summer, and I don't have all those details because she's not here today, but I felt very confident that she had done her due diligence like she does with all these situations, so I don't want to speak for her not being here, but we did speak at length about her concerns, about what we offer and are able to offer, and she felt that the class that he'd be taking.
I do know that I have.
It just seems like there's a discrepancy between what each of
Do you
those
have
people are
the
saying, you know?
I believe either they're on my phone in my email or in her
When
email.
does this course start?
It starts right after Labor Day. Right now, Tracy Wallace is holding this spot for him.
I did also, Manny had also indicated that she had talked with her as well, and that there was a difference of opinion on whether the college can recommend that, because they benefit from that. Do you know what I mean? It's tricky, because they benefit from it, so how do they?
They would be paying for it, so where there's also benefit for them, it's like a cost to them, but their benefit is really helping the students, is what Tracy would say to me, that she benefits from having me as a student there because she wants me to learn there as well.
Like I said, again, this is a difficult situation because of the.
And under C3 of the procedure, we need a majority of the school committee is needed to grant participation, right?
Where are you, Minnie?
I think I'm with Amanda. I would like to open this road. Block scheduling has been an issue, honestly, and then I think it's just not him. I think many other students, they need to have more options if they need.
I don't want to open up the floodgates, certainly, before we have a chance to lock them down again,
Of
because
course,
I don't want to
yeah.
get ourselves in a situation where people are taking so many classes that we
Yeah, no, I completely
need less
agree
teachers.
with that.
And I also think that because block scheduling is maybe one of the primary issues in terms of the scheduling, I mean, that means it's also really not fair for a lot of kids like this. So I have trouble making the exception here
Right.
when I do believe it probably is something that a lot of kids are like, well, I just
Yeah.
couldn't do it, and it stinks. I would have liked to have taken,
Couldn't get
you know,
physics last year.
exactly.
Couldn't get.
And just to be clear, I absolutely support more kids doing dual enrollment programs like this. I think it could also address class sizes. We can offer things that we wouldn't otherwise offer. But I don't think this is the procedure to do it by. And by that I mean, I think there's many other kids out there that only took their 4 and didn't take AP Lit and made their choice for physics or made their choice for macroeconomics and didn't push forward on this procedure because it didn't apply, because they knew we offered English Lit and they knew that English 102 looked strikingly similar. So it's not that I don't support dual enrollment, I absolutely do. I just don't see this as the vehicle in this situation for it. So actually, it's perfect that there is so much support for it, because I do think it's an avenue that policy and administration, like we can look into this in the future, but I just don't see it in this scenario.
So here's the problem. We're essentially, I think, in some ways tied, and we need to kind of have we sort of are pulling it, and we can't. The tie essentially fails, and so depending on what the motion is, either you don't conclude or you sort of you need a majority. I am going, I wish we had more time to get more information before this happened, because I would like to sort of hear and see if that changed anyone's mind in the efforts of having to move along, unfortunately. I would like at this time to entertain a motion to affirm Dr. Kuska's and Ms. Bottomley's decision, and then I will vote with that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think we do need to move on, and unfortunately, I think we can't, there's not going to be the votes to approve it tonight, and so without that, I think we just need to go there. So would someone like to make that motion? Someone can also make any motion, but I'm just saying, like, that's kind of where I'm coming out at. Unless someone who's sort of against it wants to change their mind.
Can I just ask a question? Can you show me where the denial procedure is? Like, what's the criteria to deny it? Because I didn't read it anywhere there. So I kind of feel like if it's a denial, you're denying it based on what?
That it doesn't fit the criteria.
I think that under code IKFHP and subsection B criteria and 1 and 2, I know that is listed out as the high school principal's criteria for reviewing it, but the superintendent is reviewing the high school principal's criteria and her decision. And then my understanding of this procedure under section C, I guess subsection 3, is that we are then reviewing the decision of the superintendent's decision, oversight of the principal. So my reading of it is it falls under the same criteria. We are reviewing their criteria. And so things like, and when I see a word like shall, it's a must. It's not a maybe, it's not a consider, it's a must. The opportunities and options still available to the student. So we must consider that AP English Literature, all 3 credits of it is available. Now, if he's told tomorrow that, oops, we filled AP English Lit and it's no longer available to him, that would be a different situation. So I'm making this decision based on the understanding that if he calls up tomorrow and says, I want to be in AP English Lit, that there isn't a scheduling conflict. But when it says shall, we have to consider that. So what's available to him? And the opportunities and options available in this new proposed setting of English 102. So I guess that's the criteria I would look at under the procedure. Does anyone disagree that there's something else we should be looking at?
Well, what I think is that since both of those points, they both show the same wording. So I believe that we're supposed to be, or you guys are supposed to be considering both of those points at the same time, both the options to the student and the options that are available in dual enrollment. And I believe that if you consider all of the options, it should be the choice that best fits for the student. And I know then after that point, you guys are concerned about the equity standpoint, where it's not fair to other students who haven't been able to take it. I can also say that most of the people that I know at Holliston don't actually know that dual enrollment is offered here at Holliston. It feels to them that this code was actually hidden under policy, that they had no clue it existed. And many of the students that I know haven't actually acted on the dual enrollment opportunity like this. So I believe that as an equity standpoint, it doesn't really go as far as equity.
Okay. So is there a motion?
Moved by Cynthia.
What?
You had stated the
Oh, yeah,
motion
okay.
to affirm the superintendent's decision.
So moved by Cynthia. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All's in favor?
No. No.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you.
All the best.
But regardless, you're going to have a kid in the air and you're going to love it.
Yeah, you did awesome.
All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to individual comment. We'll just go down the line. Sarah?
So I will shout out to some PTO events that are coming up. There is a kindergarten meetup scheduled for Saturday morning, August 26th, at the Placentina Playground. I think it starts at 9. The PTO is also sponsoring a Kids Color Run. It's a fundraiser, which will be held on the elementary school campus, and that's on Sunday. And then PTO is also providing a back-to-school breakfast for teachers and staff and everyone who comes back on Monday. So that'll be nice. And if anyone is interested, there are plenty of volunteer opportunities for the PTO. So take a look at the PTO website. And also, it's a good time to renew your membership if you haven't done so already. So that's all I have.
Thank you to Dr. Jordan and the middle school staff for an awesome open house for the 6th graders entering ramps today. That was great. And teachers, enjoy your long 3-day weekend. Imagine it's Thursday night and you have a glorious long 3-day weekend ahead of you. I'm right there with you. And no, seriously. Welcome back, and thank you so much for all you do and all you will do for our kids this year. I would just like to thank Representative Irina DeRosa and Senate President Karen Spilka for approving an outstanding budget this year, which includes something that the school committee had advocated for, which was universal school meals for all students, and that has now been made permanent in Massachusetts, which I am so thrilled about, because as the federal government is contemplating cutting funding for students to have free meals at school, even children who can't afford it, I am so proud of Massachusetts for making that decision to move forward and feed kids, because that's what it comes down to. So I'm just very thankful for them. I'm thankful for the earmarks that we received from the legislature as well, and look forward to working with them again this year. And welcome back, everybody.
Good. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to attending the teacher welcome back day on the 28th, and seeing everyone here. The excitement to start a new school year, and looking forward to it. So that's it for me. And we didn't get any public comment. So with that, I guess we'll move on to policy and ACA Title IX.
That wasn't in my packet, though.
It isn't?
So now I have to go and find it.
ACA. You know what?
Sorry.
I'm going to have to go into the shared drive.
I know. I just didn't. I just expected it to be in there, and it's not. So I just have to go find it in a different.
Yeah,
drive.
I
That's all.
don't know why that.
You can share it out then.
I could do that. Hold on 1 sec. I gotta find it first.
It's ACAB. There was a typo there, correct? Is this the right one?
Yes.
Yeah, this is it here, right? I believe.
Oh yeah, it's supposed to be ACAB. That's correct.
It
should
looks
be.
like it was,
Oh, do you have it up on there? Okay,
yeah,
hold on.
yeah.
So
Very long.
this, yeah, okay. So this is a new policy. I misspoke in our meeting, because we've been talking about this policy for so long that I didn't realize, like in the beginning, it's been a new policy, but because we had so many like it, but not this policy in particular. So we do have to read the entire policy. So
Is that state law, or can we put a policy that allows us to waive readings?
we can, but we can waive the second and third reading, but we have to read it at least once all the way through. So hold on 1 second, I still have to look for my thing here. I know you have it on the screen, but I can't see that far away. I'm sorry, I'm just too blind here. 23.
This would be a good time for anyone to go get coffee or
No, I'm not going to take that long.
Make
Give me a
dinner.
second.
make dinner. Well, it's 11 pages.
Oh, boy. Which is the one we have here? This one?
I will say.
I just want to make sure I have the right
Vetted
one.
through our legal counsel, and we have.
Okay, good. I've
needed
got the right
this
one.
Policy
All
to be.
right. Do you guys
enforced.
have this one or no? Because I can share it with you all right now.
Sure.
I'd
Yes.
love to see
Okay.
it in front of me.
And Amanda, you don't actually need to continue. Like, you can sort of blank yourself out and just let people in.
Well, I was going to share the screen, actually.
Oh, okay, then that's perfect. Yeah, that's actually great.
I'm just trying to get it.
Minnie.
But I was just saying, as far as spinning it around.
Oh, Minnie, you already have it, right?
I already have it.
Well, I'm going to send it to you anyway.
Yeah, I should, yeah, but
I'll send it. Okay.
send it to
Sarah.
Amanda so that
Yep.
she can share it.
I got it. And Dan. What else am I forgetting? I have you already. Let's see. Let me make sure I have everybody. Amanda, Dawn, Minnie, Sarah.
This is why I wanted a school committee
What am I
distribution.
forgetting?
Lisa?
Oh, but she's not here, so I'm not going to worry about her. Okay, I'm just sending it, so you'll have it in front of you.
I think.
And you're just listed as viewers, just so you know, so you can't make any changes. So no touching. Yeah, okay.
Well, we can't.
All right.
It's my job.
I know. All right, so I'm going to have to read the entire policy, so just you're going to have to bear with me. So as Dr. Kuska said, this is a policy that was reviewed. MASC has a guidance policy. We were not really happy with the guidance policy, so we actually spoke with our, and I know that they vetted it through the AG's office, but they've also looked at our policy too. So it's a little bit more Holliston specific. Katie Meinalt, who's our district counsel for special education and other policies regarding this, pretty much had her hand in the entire thing. So I feel pretty good. It's very exhaustive, I understand, but anyway, so bear with me. Okay, ACAB, sexual harassment / Title IX policy. Introduction. Title IX of the Education Amendments Act of 1972 and various state and federal laws protect all students and school employees from sex-based harassment that occurs during an educational activity, regardless of the sex of the parties. In school systems, sexual harassment may cross many lines and may involve staff member and staff member, staff member and student, student and student, third party and staff member, or third party and student. All students and school employees can experience sex-based harassment, including male and female student employees, LGBT students / employees, students / employees with disabilities, and students / employees of different races, national origins, and ages. Any person who believes that a student, teacher, administrator, other school personnel, or third party has engaged in conduct prohibited by this policy, whether such conduct has been directed at him, her, or some other person, should report the alleged prohibited conduct as soon as possible to the appropriate Holliston Public School, it should say HPS, official, as designated by this policy, verbally or in writing. Nothing in this policy shall prevent any person from reporting alleged prohibited conduct to a different Holliston Public Schools employee than the one designated in this policy. Policy statement. Holliston Public Schools does not discriminate against individuals on the basis of sex or any other category protected by state and federal law in the administration of its educational and employment policies and its administered programs and activities, and provides equal access to all designated youth groups. Holliston Public Schools is committed to maintaining an educational and work environment free from all forms of discrimination, including sexual harassment and retaliation. Goals. Holliston Public Schools is committed to providing equal educational opportunities in a safe learning and workspace environment free from discrimination, including sexual harassment and retaliation. Holliston Public Schools will not tolerate any form of discrimination, including sexual harassment and retaliation, within the school community. Holliston Public Schools will promptly and fairly investigate and respond to all allegations and complaints of sexual harassment and retaliation. During the investigation process, Holliston Public Schools will provide equitable treatment to complainants and respondents, ensure objective evaluation of all relevant evidence, and designate investigators and decision makers who are free from bias or conflict of interest. Following an investigation where it is determined that sexual harassment has occurred, Holliston Public Schools will take prompt, appropriate disciplinary, corrective, and remedial measures necessary to ensure a safe and equitable learning and workplace environment for all school community members. Definitions. Title IX identifies 3 separate types of conduct that would constitute sexual harassment. An employee of the recipient conditioning the provision of an aid, benefit, or service of this recipient on an individual's participation in unwelcome sexual conduct, quid pro quo harassment. Unwelcome conduct determined by a reasonable person to be so severe, pervasive, and objectively offensive that it effectively denies a person equal access to the recipient's education program or activity, in parentheses, hostile environment harassment, or quote, quote, sexual assault, as defined by 20 USC 1092, section F, or chapter F, I don't know, F6, I don't even know what those would be. You're going to have to help me out here. Anyway, quote, dating violence, as defined in 34 USC 12291A, section 10, quote, domestic violence, as defined in 34 USC 12291A, section 8, or, quote, stalking, as defined in 34 USC 12291A, section 30. Okay, that was really ridiculous.
We want to take turns?
Yeah, you can. read it.
Examples of unwelcome conduct that may establish a hostile environment include but are not limited to unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, verbal, nonverbal, or physical conduct of a sexual nature, sex discrimination, threats of violence, and/or physical assault. The following additional definitions apply. Quotation, actual knowledge means notice of sexual harassment or allegations of sexual harassment to any employee of Holliston Public Schools, except that this standard is not met when the only official of Holliston Public Schools with actual knowledge is the respondent, where the respondent is an employee. Imputation of knowledge based solely on vicarious liability or constructive notice is insufficient to constitute actual knowledge. Complaints will be addressed whenever Holliston Public Schools has actual knowledge of the allegation. Administrative leave means placing an employee on leave pursuant to state law. Nothing in the Title IX regulations precludes a recipient from placing a non-student employee respondent on administrative leave during an employee respondent on administrative leave during the pendency of a grievance process, provided that Massachusetts laws are followed. Consent means cooperation in act or attitude pursuant to an exercise of free will of a conscious person with informed knowledge of the nature of the act or actions. A current or previous relationship shall not be sufficient to constitute consent. Consent will not be found when submission to the act or actions is undertaken due, should it be due to the influence? Or due the influence, just a question. Due to the influence of fear, fraud, forcible compulsion, threats, and/or the complainant possessed any legal incapacity to consent at the time of the act or actions. Consent is a defense to all types of sexual harassment. Complainant means an individual who is alleged to be the victim of conduct that could constitute sexual harassment. Deliberate indifference means a response to sexual harassment that is clearly unreasonable in light of the known circumstances. Emergency removal means the suspension or expulsion of a student on an emergency basis consistent with state law. Nothing in the Title IX regulations precludes Holliston Public Schools from removing a respondent from Holliston Public Schools' education program or activity on an emergency basis, provided that Holliston Public Schools follows all procedures under Massachusetts law, undertakes an individualized safety and risk analysis, determines that an immediate threat to the physical health or safety of any student or other individual arising from the allegations of sexual harassment justifies removal, and provides the respondent with notice and an opportunity to challenge the decision immediately following the removal. Formal complaint means a document filed by a complainant or the complainant's parent or guardian if the complainant is a student, or signed by the Title IX coordinator alleging sexual harassment and requesting that Holliston Public Schools investigate the allegations of sexual harassment. Respondent means an individual who has been reported to be the perpetrator of conduct that could constitute sexual harassment. Supportive measures means non-disciplinary, non-punitive, individualized services offered as appropriate, as reasonably available, and without fee or charge to the complainant or the respondent before or after the filing of a formal complaint or where no formal complaint has been filed. Such measures are designed to restore or preserve equal access to the recipient's education program or activity without unreasonably burdening the other party, including measures designed to protect the safety of all parties or the recipient's educational environment or deter sexual harassment. Supportive measures may include counseling, extensions of deadlines or other course-related adjustments, modifications of work or class schedules, campus escort services, mutual restrictions on contact between the parties, changes in work or housing locations, leaves of absence, increased security and monitoring of certain areas of the campus, and other similar measures. Holliston Public Schools must maintain as confidential any supportive measures provided to the complainant or respondent to the extent that maintaining such confidentiality would not impair the ability of the recipient to provide the supportive measures. The Title IX coordinator is responsible for coordinating the effective implementation of supportive measures. Subsection, application of Title IX / sexual harassment policy. Do that.
Sure. To be covered by Title IX, the sexual harassment must have occurred in the school's education program or activity, and the complainant must have been participating in or attempting to participate in an education program or activity at the school at the time the complaint is filed. The complainant must also have been in the United States when the conduct occurred. Holliston Public Schools will investigate all allegations of sexual harassment of which it has actual knowledge and which are alleged to occur in the school's program and activities, including locations, events, and/or circumstances in which the Holliston Public Schools exercises substantial control in accordance with this policy and in a way that is not deliberately indifferent. While Title IX covers the above described definition of, quote, sexual harassment, Holliston Public Schools recognizes that the Title IX standard does not capture all conduct that amounts to sexual harassment under school policy and other state and federal laws. Therefore, while Holliston Public Schools prohibits, quote, sexual harassment as defined by Title IX, it also prohibits sexually harassing conduct that may fall outside of Title IX's definition and includes other sexually oriented conduct, whether it is intended or not, that is unwelcome and has the effect of creating an environment that is hostile, offensive, intimidating, or humiliating to students or employees. If Holliston Public Schools determines that the alleged conduct falls outside of Title IX's scope, but still constitutes,
But still constitutes sexual harassment under other school policies, Holliston Public Schools will implement appropriate remedial and/or disciplinary action in accordance with those policies. Please note that incidents of sexual harassment may constitute child abuse under state law and may also violate criminal laws. Holliston Public Schools will also comply with all legal requirements governing the reporting of suspected cases of child abuse and criminal violations to the appropriate authorities, including the Department of Children and Families. Subsection, complaint and reporting process.
Okay. For allegations of sex-based discrimination, including sexual harassment, sexual violence, and gender-based harassment by a Holliston Public Schools employee or volunteer, another student at Holliston Public Schools or a third party, immediately report the incident to Holliston Public Schools Title IX coordinator and/or the principal of your building. The Title IX coordinator contact information is as follows, and it's listed below. Name, title, address, phone number, and email. Nothing, it should be.
Here is that we typically don't put the name of the coordinator in there.
No, but wasn't it in the, below in the references or no?
No, because it can change from year to year because of who's employed here.
That
so
is true.
We never want to lock that in.
Can we put a link in there to the Title IX coordinator page that then is kept updated?
We'll figure out something.
Yeah.
Well, then,
Is the title, so we have some positions where they might be the coordinator, but ultimately it's the superintendent.
no, the
No.
superintendent cannot be the coordinator.
No, 'cause they have to-
It was listed
yeah.
incorrectly before because I would have to be the appeals.
Right.
Right to the appeals.
So, but could we put where to find it?
That'll be like a link.
There's a link, but can we also put a paper way to find it or a phone
Would be the
number?
One
by
of
which
it
to
would be the
find it?
link to the website because we have to get once we have this done,
Yeah.
we're going to have to update the website to have this
You'd have
policy
it posted.
Right.
specifically
Okay,
highlighted.
but then we have to have a link to whoever the sexual harassment coordinator would be, right?
Yes.
Title IX, yeah.
Yes, it would have to, on the website, we're
Yes.
going to have to list who the coordinator is, which is
Right.
easier to change, obviously.
Nothing in this policy shall prevent any person from reporting alleged prohibited conduct to a different Holliston Public Schools employee than the one designated in this policy. Upon receiving actual notice of alleged sexual harassment, all non-student members of the Holliston Public Schools community, including Holliston Public Schools school committee members, administration, faculty, staff, volunteers in schools, and/or parties contracted to perform work for Holliston Public Schools, subject to school authority, must notify the Title IX coordinator as soon as possible, but no later than 24 hours after becoming aware of the incident. Failure to comply with this mandatory reporting requirement as this protocol may lead to disciplinary action. Title IX coordinator and/or designated school administrator and/or employee must then contact the complainant within 2 days of receiving the complaint to do the following: promptly offer and discuss supportive measures with the complainant. Consider the complainant's wishes with respect to supportive measures. Explain that supportive measures may be received with or without filing a formal complaint. Explain the process of filing a formal complaint and determine whether the complainant wishes to file a formal complaint, and explain to the complainant the purpose of filing a formal complaint. The Title IX coordinator must document in writing the supportive measures offered/provided or why no supportive measures were offered/provided. complainant and respondents must be offered supportive measures even if they do not file a formal complaint. If the complainant declines to file a formal complaint, the Title IX coordinator must consider whether to sign a formal complaint and start an investigation despite the complainant's preferences. This decision may be appropriate when safety or similar concerns lead Holliston Public Schools to conclude that a non-deliberately indifferent response of actual knowledge of Title IX sexual harassment could reasonably require Holliston Public Schools to investigate and potentially sanction a respondent. A Title IX coordinator's decision to override the complainant's decision not to file a formal complaint must be documented in writing along with an explanation of why this decision was necessary in order to avoid deliberate indifference. If a formal complaint is not made, Holliston Public Schools may still investigate the report of sexual harassment in accordance with its non-discrimination policy, taking the complainant's wishes into consideration. Formal complaints may also be filed directly with the Title IX coordinator by a complainant in person, by mail, by email, or by telephone at any time, including during non-business hours. The complaint may be written by the complainant, or it will be reduced to writing by either the school employee who received the complaint, the building principal, or the Title IX coordinator. Whether the complaint is reduced to writing by a student, parent, or staff member, the written complaint should include the name of the complainant, the name of the alleged victim, if different, the name of the respondent, the location of the school/department where the alleged discriminatory action occurred, the basis for the complaint, witnesses, if any, and the corrective action the complainant is seeking. This information will be made or transferred to a discrimination/harassment complaint form maintained by Holliston Public Schools. There is no time limit or statute of limitation on timing to file a formal complaint. However, at the time of filing a formal complaint, an alleged victim must be participating or attempting to participate in a program or activity of Holliston Public Schools. Additionally, Holliston Public Schools has discretion to dismiss a formal complaint where the passage of time would result in Holliston Public Schools' inability to gather evidence sufficient to reach a determination regarding responsibility, or when Holliston Public Schools loses responsibility for the respondent, e.g., the respondent no longer attends or is employed by the Holliston Public Schools. If the conduct alleged in the formal complaint would not constitute sexual harassment as defined in this policy, even if proved, did not occur on Holliston Public Schools' education program or activity, or did not occur against a person in the United States, then Holliston Public Schools must dismiss the formal complaint under these procedures, but could investigate it under the other policies and procedures. Holliston Public Schools will send written notice of any dismissal. Written notice of formal complaint. Upon receiving a formal complaint of sexual harassment, Holliston Public Schools will provide the complainant and the respondent written notices of the allegations, the grievance process, the appeal process, available supportive measures, and possible disciplinary sanctions and remedies. The written notice will also include a statement that the respondent is presumed not responsible for the alleged conduct, and that a determination regarding responsibility is made at the conclusion of the grievance process. The written notice must inform the parties that they may have an advisor of their choice who may be, but is not required to be, an attorney and may inspect and review evidence. The written notice must inform the parties that the Holliston Public Schools Code of Conduct prohibits knowingly making false statements or knowingly submitting false information during the grievance process. If additional allegations are added during the course of the investigation, additional written notice must be provided. Informal resolution.
Where appropriate, and only after a formal complaint has been filed and written notice has been issued, the Title IX coordinator should also consider offering the parties an option for informal resolution. Example, mediation. Participation in an informal resolution process may only occur where both parties give voluntary, informed, written consent to attempt informal resolution, and either party has the right to withdraw from the informal process at any time. The informal complaint option is not available for reports of employee on student sexual harassment. In this context, a formal investigation is required. Where an informal resolution process is agreed to, it will be facilitated by a facilitator designed by the Title IX coordinator who does not have a conflict of interest and or bias for or against the complainants or respondents, and who has received proper training. Informal resolution is entirely voluntary. Parties may elect to pursue formal procedures and decline informal resolution at any step in the process, even if informal resolution has already begun. If the parties are not satisfied with the resolution from the informal process, or if he, she, they do not choose informal resolution, then he, she, they can begin the formal complaint procedure described below. Subsection investigation. If informal resolution is not offered to or accepted by the parties, the Title IX coordinator will designate an investigator and a decision maker who may not be the same person. All formal complaints will require a full investigation in accordance with the Title IX grievance process. For formal complaints of sexual harassment, the investigator will conduct and complete a thorough and impartial investigation into the reported conduct within a reasonably prompt time frame, with delays for good cause only. Good faith efforts will be made to complete the investigation within 15 school days of the initiation of the formal complaint, except for good cause, as documented in the investigation file. Where feasible, the formal process will be completed within a 90-day time frame from the date a formal complaint is filed with Holliston Public Schools. There may be a temporary delay of the grievance process or the limited extension of timeframes for good cause with written notice to the complainant and the respondent of the delay or extension and the reasons for the action. Good cause may include, but is not limited to, considerations such as the absence of a party, a party's advisor, or a witness, concurrent law enforcement activity, or the need for language assistance or accommodation of disabilities. Subsection gathering evidence. The investigation will include personal interviews with the complainants, the individuals against whom the complaint is filed, and others who have knowledge of the alleged incidents or circumstances giving rise to the complaint. The investigation may also consist of other methods deemed pertinent by the investigator, including but not limited to gathering physical evidence. The investigator will find facts and making determinations. Should it be find facts and make determinations? Just go back to it. And making determinations related to credibility, all of which will be incorporated into a written report. The investigator must avoid all questions that are protected by legal privilege unless the legal privilege has been waived, and should avoid asking about the complainant's sexual history unless it is directly relevant to prove consent to the conduct at issue or to prove that the conduct was committed by someone other than the respondent. Holliston Public Schools will keep confidential the identity of the complainants, respondents, and witnesses, except as may be permitted by FERPA as required by law or as necessary to carry out a Title IX proceeding. For Title IX purposes, if a student requests that his, her, or
It should just
their,
say, I'll say that they. There's a bunch of things that just,
Yeah.
there were some track changes that
Okay.
did not go through for some reason, because
So-
everything should have said HPS and everything should have
Right.
said they.
So for that
So-
paragraph, that their name be revealed to the alleged perpetrator, honoring the request may limit Holliston Public Schools' ability to respond fully to the incident, including pursuing disciplinary action against the alleged perpetrator. Title IX includes protections against retaliation, including retaliatory actions taken by school and school officials will not only take steps to prevent retaliation, but will also take strong responsive action if it occurs. Confidentiality concerns should be brought to the attention of the Title IX coordinator, whose contact information is provided above, and or the principal of your school building. Holliston Public Schools has the burden of gathering the evidence, not the parties. However, parties may gather and present evidence of their own. All parties will be provided with an equal opportunity to review and respond to evidence gathered during the investigation. All parties whose participation is invited or expected will be provided with written notice of the date, time, location, participants, and purpose of all investigative interviews or other meetings with the party, with sufficient time for the party to prepare to participate. All parties will be provided with the opportunity to be accompanied to any related meeting, interview, or proceeding by an advisor of their choice who may be, but is not required to be, an attorney. Holliston Public Schools will not require, allow, or rely upon privileged information unless privilege is waived in writing by the holder. All parties will be provided with an equal opportunity to review and respond to evidence gathered during the investigation. Prior to completion of the investigative report, Holliston Public Schools will send to each party and the party's advisor, if any, the evidence subject to inspection and review in an electronic format or a hard copy, and the parties will have 10 days to submit a written response to the evidence, which the investigator will consider prior to completion of the investigative report.
Investigative report and written questions. Upon its completion, the parties will be provided with a copy of the investigative report for their review and, if desired, written response. Written responses from the parties will be required within 10 days of receipt of the investigative report and will be incorporated into the investigative report. After the parties' responses to the investigative report, if any, have been incorporated into the investigative report, but prior to reaching a determination regarding responsibilities, the decision maker, who will not be the same person as the investigator and/or Title IX coordinator, will afford each party the opportunity to submit written questions for the other parties and witnesses to answer, provide each party with the answers, and allow for additional limited follow-up questions from each party. If any questions are determined not to be relevant, the decision maker may exclude the questions and will explain to the party proposing the questions any decision to exclude
questions as not relevant.
questions and evidence about the complainant's sexual predispositions or prior sexual behavior are not relevant unless such questions and evidence about the complainant's prior sexual behavior are offered to prove that someone other than the respondent committed the conduct alleged by the complainant, or if the questions and evidence concern specific incidents of the complainant's prior sexual behavior with respect to the respondent and are offered to prove consent. Written determination of standard of evidence. After this process, the decision maker will issue a written determination simultaneously to the parties regarding whether sexual harassment has occurred using a preponderance of evidence standard, as it does for all conduct code violations that do not involve sexual harassment but carry the same maximum disciplinary sanctions. Resolution proceedings are conducted to take into account the totality of all evidence available from all relevant sources. A, quote, preponderance of evidence means that it is more likely than not that the alleged conduct occurred. The decision maker shall further recommend what action, if any, is required. If it is determined that sexual harassment occurred, Holliston Public Schools will take steps to prevent the recurrence of the harassment and correct its discriminatory effect on the complainant and others if appropriate. Such remedies may include supportive measures. The written determination must be issued to both parties simultaneously and must include identification of the allegations potentially constituting sexual harassment, a description of the procedural steps taken from the receipt of the formal complaint through the determination, including any notifications to the parties, interviews with the parties and witnesses, site visits, methods used to gather other evidence, etc. Findings of fact supporting the determination, conclusions regarding the application of the recipient's code of conduct to the facts, a statement of and rationale for the result as to each allegation, including a determination regarding responsibility, any disciplinary sanctions the recipient imposes on the respondent, and whether remedies designed to restore or preserve equal access to the recipient's education program or activity will be provided by the recipient to the complainant, and Holliston Public Schools procedures and permissible basis for the complainant and respondent to appeal. In parentheses, a copy of or direct reference to this policy will suffice. Disciplinary action, corrective action, and remedial measures. If the respondent is ultimately found responsible, the complainant will be made aware of any sanctions imposed on the respondent that directly relate to the complainant. The respondent will not be notified if individual remedies offered or provided to the complainant. If the respondent is ultimately found responsible, Holliston Public Schools will effectively implement remedies for the respondent, complainant, and where appropriate for the broader student population. The remedies will be designed to restore or preserve equal access to the educational program or activity for the complainant and the harassment, eliminate the hostile environment, prevent its reoccurrence, and remedy its effects. Remedies may include, but are not limited to, disciplinary sanctions against the respondent up to and including termination and/or expulsion, counseling for the respondent, an escort for the complainant, ensuring that complainant and respondent do not share classes or extracurricular activities, providing comprehensive victim services, training or retraining school employees, changes to Holliston Public Schools policies and/or services, etc. Any disciplinary action will be in accordance with due process rights under state law and any applicable collective bargaining agreement. As indicated above, these procedures do not limit Holliston Public Schools from removing a student or employee from a program or activity on an emergency basis based on immediate threats to people's physical health or safety, or placing an employee or on administrative leave during the pendency of the investigation. Appeal process. Parties may appeal the decision issued as a result of the investigation or from Holliston Public Schools dismissal for a formal complaint or any allegations therein within 15 days, school days, of the receipt of the findings of the formal procedure or a dismissal. This decision makers for the appeal will not be the same person as the decision maker who reached the determination regarding responsibility or dismissal, the investigator and or the Title IX coordinator. Parties may appeal on the basis of procedural deficiencies, bias or conflict of interest, newly discovered evidence, and or other good cause. Holliston Public Schools will notify the other party in writing when an appeal is filed and implement appeal procedures equally for both parties. Both parties will have a reasonable equal opportunity to submit a written statement in support of or challenging the outcome. The appeal decision maker will review the comprehensiveness and accuracy of the investigation and the conclusions and issue written findings to both the complainant and the respondent within 30 days, school days, of the appeal. Training. Holliston Public Schools will ensure that Title IX coordinators, investigators, decision makers, and any person who facilitates an informal resolution process receive training on the definition of sexual harassment, the scope of the recipient's education program or activity, how to conduct an investigation and grievance process, including hearings, appeals, and informal resolution processes as applicable, and how to serve impartially, including by avoiding prejudgment of the facts at issue, conflicts of interest, and bias. Holliston Public Schools will ensure that decision makers receive training on any technology to be used in interviews and on issues of relevance of questions and evidence, including when questions and evidence about a complainant's sexual predisposition or prior sexual behavior are not relevant. Holliston Public Schools also must ensure that investigators receive training on issues of relevance to create an investigative report that fairly summarizes relevant evidence. Any materials used to train Title IX coordinators, investigators, decision makers, and any person who facilitates an informal resolution process must not rely on sex stereotypes and must promote impartial investigators and adjudications of formal complaints of sexual harassment. These training materials will be posted on Holliston Public Schools' website. Records. A record will be maintained for a period of 7 years of any actions, including supportive measures, taken in response to a report of or formal complaint of sexual harassment, and Holliston Public Schools staff will document the basis for Holliston Public Schools' conclusion that its response was not deliberately indifferent. Referral to law enforcement, other agencies. Some alleged conduct may constitute both a violation of Holliston Public Schools policies and criminal activity. The building principal, coordinator, superintendent, or designee will refer matters to law enforcement and other agencies as appropriate under the law or Holliston Public Schools policy, and inform the complainant, alleged victim, of the right to file a criminal complaint. Retaliation. Retaliation against an individual who has brought good faith allegations of sexual harassment to the attention of Holliston Public Schools or who has cooperated in an investigation of a complaint under this policy is unlawful and will not be tolerated by Holliston Public Schools. If a student/employee believes that they have been retaliated against in connection with any good faith report of inappropriate conduct or harassment, the student/employee should immediately report such conduct to the Title IX coordinator and or principal of your school building. The Title IX coordinator and or designee will investigate reports of retaliation, and where retaliation is found, take separate remedial and disciplinary action. In addition to the above, if you believe you have been subjected to unlawful harassment and or retaliation, you may file a complaint with either or both of the following local government agencies. Each of the agencies has a short time period for filing a claim, and it lists the United States Equal Opportunity Commission, and its address, JFK Federal Building, 475 Government Center, Boston, Massachusetts, 02203. Phone number 800-669-4000. Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination, Boston office at 1 Ashburn Place, 6th floor, room 601, Boston, Massachusetts, 02108, 617-994-6000. Office of Civil Rights, U.S. Department of Education, 5 Post Office Square, 8th floor, Boston, Massachusetts, 02129-617-289-0111. You may also file a complaint directly with the Office of Program Quality Assurance at the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education or seek outside counsel. Legal references, MGL 151B, Section 3A, Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972, BESC 603, CMR 20, Chapter 26, 34 CFR, Chapter 106.44, Sections A and A-B, 34 CFR 106.45A-B, Section 1, and 34 CFR 106.45B, Section 2, B, Sections 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, as revised through June of 2020.
Good job.
Wow, that's another like half an hour that nobody's going to get back. But there's a bunch of typos in there I can see that were not, that we had actually addressed but didn't go through, and I'm not sure why.
On page 9 on the bottom, it says coordinator lowercase, and it doesn't say Title IX coordinator. I think that has to be fixed. So page 9 on the bottom. On page 4, it references the school's non-discrimination policy. So I do think there should be a
There should be a cross-reference
So there
at
has
the
to be a
bottom.
cross-reference at the bottom, and maybe a citation on page 4 to the non-discrimination policy.
A very important policy. But I think we don't take a vote on this, right?
No, this is just a first read. So I'm just gonna. So just for the interest of time, if there's something that you see, just let me know, and I will just add that. But there's things like HPS was supposed to be throughout. All the theys were supposed to be throughout. These were things that we thought we already addressed the other day, and there's a couple other typos that I'll address. But if there's anything else substantively, just like send me an email. We'll review it over at our next policy meeting, and we'll bring it again on September 14th for us to hopefully vote on, unless there's some other issue.
Without rereading.
No, I'm not reading this again. Let's just be clear. I will read the changes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I just ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
So how is this, I guess this is a question for Joni, how is this communicated to staff, just to make sure that like new staff, existing staff, all like, we're sure they read through it? I know you always share new policies with staff.
So we share any policy that pertains to staff, like this one they should.
Yeah.
But for the beginning of the year, they will do their mandatory training. We have an updated video from our legal counsel that they will have to view and sign off on. And that will also go on the website now, that's referenced in there as
Specifically
well.
on Title IX.
It's about a 10-minute.
Okay, sorry. Thanks for your time, everybody.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
All right, moving along to central office administrators updates. Jessica?
Sure. So I know that we've had a lot of communications going out recently related to shortages of paraprofessionals in particular. I will say I'm pleased that we have filled most of our educator positions, not paras yet. But I just wanted to reassure people on that, because that, also had been a concern earlier in the summer with late changes. We had a lot of people move either out of state or getting married out of state, and that was, because I've done a lot of exit interviews on that, was interesting. But I think we have one position at each building currently open, but 2 of them might be filled hopefully by tomorrow. So we're in pretty good shape there. And then from paraprofessionals, we saw an uptick. It was a moving target all summer long, and then we saw an uptick last week, which led us to try to make some additional, come up with some additional ideas that we could hopefully retain the staff from leaving, but also attract new hires as well, and then retain them. So one of the things we did was we created, this was earlier in the summer, we started creating a building liaison position, because what we were finding is, because we have paraprofessionals in particular, all year long seem to be a new hire situation, more so than other positions. And what we were finding is that they don't get the onboarding and training, which then it makes it more frustrating, because they don't have anyone to go to, or they may not feel comfortable because they didn't get that initial onboarding. So we created a position called, it's a stipend position, a building liaison, to help with that onboarding and retention as people come in throughout the year, to have a go-to person. So each building will have one of those stipend position. It would be a veteran paraprofessional that's been in the building at least 2 years, and we're hoping that's going to help support some of our paras as they enter the district. And then you've seen the community outreaches that have been going out. I will say, we have actually seen, since Jessica Beatty, our Student Services Director, sent out an additional communication. I looked online today, and we have a number of new applicants over the last couple of days. Obviously, principals haven't had a time to vet those, but I'm encouraged. And also, Jess had said to reach out to her by email, and so I don't know if they're the same people that applied, but 6 or 7 or more people emailed her and said, how do I apply? So they're coming in, so I'm optimistic that we'll fill some more. But currently, we've filled about 6 or 7 since the last time that we were seeing the number uptick in the last week or so. So that's, we're moving in the right direction again. We still have potentially 17, 18, or 19 openings, depending on the moment. So I'm still concerned about that. I reached out to a number of my superintendent colleagues in the Metro West. One district has 24 openings. That's actually, I think, was a little bit smaller than ours, if I remember. Another had 18. So this is a concern throughout the Commonwealth and the country. So long term, I think we need stronger solutions and problem solving as well. But we did also, we're working on finalizing a referral stipend for our hired. Any of our current staff would be eligible if they send someone our way that then comes into the district and stays in the district, they could get a referral stipend this year. So it's a 1-year situation, and we're able to use our ESSER 3 funds because it's not going to have a long-term impact. It would be for this year only at this point, but we'll be able to hopefully wrap that up. We've been working with our HFT leadership, and I think we're all trying to work together to solve this problem together. Ultimately, particularly our paraprofessionals are often associated with IEP services, not always. We have general as well, but those are also legally compliant, so we need to have people in place on opening day. Last year, we had a number of holes that we never filled all year, so this is not new this year, but we seem to have a little bit of a higher number. We also did add, just based on needs of students, I feel like there were 3 new positions added this year, which then even impacted it more. So, we were getting a little panicked about this, but we're starting to feel a little bit better. It seems like we're getting closer to where we need to be. But this is something that we, if there are people in the community that want to come on board, even if they can't come all year, but they wanted to work for us, and then we'd love to have them apply. So I think that's the only building. I'll pause unless you have questions about staffing right now, because that was the bulk of what I wanted to focus on at the moment.
And you're continuing to look at other means of getting out the word. I know it's not right away, but we've got Celebrate Holliston coming up in a month, and hopefully by that point we'll have it cleared. But there are ways there. What other ways are we looking at to sort of?
Yeah, the town has been very supportive of getting any of our flyers up. They put them on their sandwich boards. I don't know if they put them on the electronic ones because they didn't have access to that. But they've been posting it on their website. Yes, Celebrate Holliston may be another opportunity if we still see that as a problem as we get closer to that. And I really think the word of mouth of getting things, I feel like people are commenting on Facebook in a positive way on our own Facebook page as well. So the more the community can get the word out and rally up is helpful at the moment.
And just getting out the overall benefits package too, because it's not just the wage, right? You're your town employee.
Right. If you work 20 hours or more, then you are eligible for insurance through the town as well.
And there's some tuition reimbursement.
They can apply for course reimbursement.
Right.
Yes, and they can, if there are step increases as we go along, and we also have tutors in that contract as well. So I think most of our tutor positions are currently filled, so that's encouraging. So this is our area that we're focusing on right now.
Yeah, it's great to hear that also that we've filled most of the educator openings that we had, because I know that was in flux a lot over the summer. And it's just, I think it's a difficult time overall.
And honestly, there's just literally today, the Mass Superintendents Association sent out, I think yesterday, an email saying, please be respectful of the other districts, because you take one, they're losing someone, and then they will not have someone. I personally have worked to try to, when we've had situations where someone was leaving late, especially with our new administrators, I have reached out before I've offered the job to the superintendents and said, hey, how can we work together? Because, they also have the same problem. We're all fighting the same battle. So I think we need to remember that we're not unique as far as needs. I mean, this is a crisis in education right now that it's colleges need to encourage it. We need to do more to encourage people to go into education and remember the joy. I think COVID has taken away some of the joy.
A lot of things. Any other questions about staffing? So the only other thing is just that we'll put on there for the agenda for next week after we get sort of everything settled. I know people are going crazy just to get through sort of a final sort of turnover numbers that we can share with the community.
Yeah.
Because I know that's been on a lot of people's minds, but obviously things are really busy. Right now we're just worried about making sure we spend time staffing up appropriately and getting the schools open. So.
Yes, and I also, we had hoped to try to invite the new administrators that didn't get to the last meeting to this one, but we, just time-wise, we weren't able to do that, so we're hoping to invite the administrative team, I think we talked about September 15th, to come and reintroduce the whole team if they're able to attend that night.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think that it's important for people to get to know them and for us to get to know them too. So.
Sure.
And a welcome back to Brenda Morrow. Yay.
Okay, is that all for you?
I mean, I know we talked about opening day. I will encourage all of you. You're more than welcome to come. I am excited to have, we do have a special panel of 2 students and 3 educators. I won't go into all the detail, but I'm excited that I'm working with them to facilitate a panel discussion about safe and supportive schools and the work that they've been doing as students and staff. So that's a big part of the opening day events on Monday.
Great.
Please excuse my voice. I've been losing it, so I don't know what's going on. Just to let you know, we held new staff orientation for teachers and paras on Monday the 21st. Had a really good turnout where they got to meet all 6 central administrators along with all the principals. The following day, we had continued our staff orientation for teachers and their mentors. It was a really good opportunity for them to get to know us, Holliston, and some of their peers. Just to remind you, we have our first district PD day on September 1st. It runs from 8 to 2:30. Just to let you know, we had I'll read you this little paragraph I put on the beginning of the agenda. In response to staff concerns shared at last year's August full PD day, district leaders collaborated with building leaders to develop this year's 9/1 PD day. Staff will be located within their own buildings to allow time to process concepts together as a school community. Trainers and facilitators will be traveling to each building to accommodate this. We have a presentation on safe and supportive schools by Jerry L. Student disciplinary law and investigations by Katie Meinault. We have M. Power School presentation by Jess Beatty and Dan McLeod. And finally, a school safety presentation with Dr. Koska, Keith Boudet, and Holliston Police Department and Holliston Fire Department representatives. So it's a full day. You had asked questions about the math curriculum review. I wanted to give you an update on that. Tomorrow, James will be running it, facilitating it, and I will be attending. We are having another math curriculum review meeting from 9 till 12. This is where we're going to be talking about and creating a presentation for a district math curriculum night. I don't know the date yet. We're deciding that. That night will be including a history of leveling at HPS, where Dr. Jordan would be talking about that. Our current pathways, so what's available in middle and high schools, the current research out there on leveling, what our neighboring districts are doing, the overview of the curriculum review process so far, so what has been done to date. We would be talking about teacher survey results and that night. After that night, we would be putting out a parent survey on mathematics before we go forward. We are looking at piloting different curricular resources in both elementary and the high school right now, but we will be talking about that all tomorrow.
So just on that, who's going to be invited to the leveling discussion community? Not the 9 to 12 thing that's going on soon, but the parents' night.
Community.
So I just want to make sure it's not just going to be the Adams parents, right? Because
Oh, no, it
really
would
gonna
be the community. It would be anybody from the Holliston community.
Okay, because it's just, obviously,
We don't know. We
They
haven't
haven't
decided. We're meeting to plan it. It would be this year. It would be in the fall. I
And
just don't
obviously-
know the date yet.
You've said there's going to be a survey, which is great for parent input, but
Correct.
will there be time at the parent night, I don't know, whatever we're calling it, but for input, for them to provide input in person then too?
That's a pretty ambitious agenda, so I'm not quite sure. I mean, I know we have been asked a lot about the history, right? So the history, to go over that, I mean, we can try, but I mean, you have the history, the pathways, the current research, what neighboring districts are doing, what we've done so far, talking about the teacher survey, and then we were going to roll out the parent survey. I don't know.
Is the teacher survey Rams, or does it include?
Everybody,
Okay,
because it
so it's
impacts
from
everybody.
Placentia
Every
all the way
math
up to high
teacher.
school.
I mean, we clarify that.
And-
A math teacher.
And Dr. Jordan will come and discuss research and neighborhood and history. Will we have
No,
enough?
Dr. Jordan would be coming to talk about the history.
Okay.
So we're hoping to get some people that are on the actual curriculum review committee, some of the teachers to actually talk about those other things.
Okay.
I
Anyone
can't
from the
commit them
high
right now,
school?
but that's our hope.
Other than Mr. Lavasser, is there anyone from the high school relative to math and what's
Yes.
offered? Okay.
Yes, I can't speak if they would be there for the night, but we're going to try to encourage them, yes.
Okay. Oh, so it's not like you've reached out and confirmed yet, but it's something you'll look into?
Tomorrow, we are talking about it from 9 to 12.
Okay.
So,
But we also have, what's encouraging, our new assistant principal at the high school also is a teacher, has been a teacher of math. So I
Right.
think that's going to be really helpful because we do have a lot of
Yes.
new math teachers at the high school this year.
yes.
So I do think it's important, and whether it's that night or there's another opportunity, that maybe the parents and people can digest it from that, the information from that night, respond to the survey. But I do think it's important to have a time for input from parents and the community before sort of a finalized sort of product is put
In
together.
addition to the survey?
Yeah, yes, like an in-person. Just some people are better with writing things. I'm just, we want to make sure that there's as much opportunity for people to have input. I think this is a very big decision for us, and I think that's why I mean, if you want to find time during that night, that's fine too. But I just think that there should be that opportunity.
Like, are you talking about like an office hour or something like that?
I think it'd be hard though if you have that, like the people that would need to be there would be that group. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think it would be better if you could combine it all in one night. But I do get the point that there's a lot of
I
stuff
don't
there.
know.
So
I mean, we might be able to fit it all in. I mean, that's the ambitious.
to go through all that, they'll
Agenda.
also not allow questions and some input might frustrate people too. So even if you tell them there's a survey coming, and I think some people don't necessarily think that surveys are read, even if we're going to assure them that they will be, and they definitely will be, right? So
Okay.
And will we publish the results of the survey?
Sure.
I think we'd probably end up,
Yeah.
like, showing the graphs like we've done
Right.
before and put that out. And then, obviously, whatever the review committee ends up recommending would come to school committee if it's a,
The idea was to show the results of the teacher survey that night, because that would already been done, collected, analyzed, right? So that's presented to parents, but sure, we can publish.
I just want to make sure there's multiple opportunities
Sure.
for the community to have input before a final decision is made and comes to us, because so it doesn't feel like they're just opining on something that's pre-baked.
No problem. And then finally, you had asked for an update on our stage 1. So we are really meeting the teachers where they're at. So that could be meaning different things.
Stage 1 of the curriculum mapping.
Correct.
Right.
So you had asked to clear a
No, I
report
just
on
want
that.
for the community just.
Yep. So if teachers have not completed stage 1, the 3 curriculum coordinators, the appropriate curriculum coordinator, would be working with them collaboratively on that. If a group of teachers, I'm just making this up, high school science teachers have finished their stage 1, then the curriculum coordinator would provide training on stage 2 and work with them to collaborate on that. We will be providing PD day time, content area meeting time, curriculum meeting times to work on this. Our intent is to make sure that we're supporting staff with being able to house their curricular resources in one place and to make their lives easier. As you know, we were cited by DESE in our curriculum audit for not having a district curriculum template. And also, NEASC requires that too. So we need to have it for both of those things. If you're not aware, we are in the middle of a NEASC review.
That's her accreditation, just for those who don't know what it's for.
Correct, yes. And I don't know if we'd call it in the middle. Where would you call we're at in the process?
Well, we actually have them coming in October, so
Kind
we're,
of step 2.
Okay,
Yeah,
step
steps,
2
yeah,
of the
right.
and
NEASC
then what's
process,
the
all
next
right.
year.
Out of 3?
Yeah.
Out of 4.
Out of 4, okay, so we're midway.
Right.
Ish.
And then I also wanted to remind everybody, both DESE and NEASC require teaching the state curriculum standards, so all the curriculum work starts with what standards are being addressed. And this also, all of this work aligns directly with our strategic plan, Arch 3, Initiative 1, our vertical and horizontal alignment, that the outcome is the creation of clear, rigorous, and consistent academic expectations for student success that align with state frameworks. And that is what you asked for a report on.
So for steps 2 and 3,
Yes.
I know you guys have been working. I was in the central office and I saw you meeting with the curriculum coordinators
Yes.
over the summer. That was great.
Yes.
Do we have some sort of document that you can share with us, and most importantly, actually, share with the teachers to discuss what steps 2 and 3 are? What are you going to be asking for? What the teacher's role is going to be in that? What the curriculum coordinator's role is going to be in that? Where that information is going to be housed? What's going to be done with it? Just, I think that there's just sort of some consternation about just what exactly these steps are, and the more information we can provide, the sooner to the staff, and then answer questions, and then be ready to sort of answer questions, the better.
That was provided last year to all staff and the school committee. So we presented, the curriculum coordinators and myself presented on it. There's a document that has stage 1, 2, and 3 on it. So that first summer that they started, we developed that together, taking feedback from the staff. All staff has seen that. There's 2 documents that has a blank version and a teacher-friendly version, and that was shared with the school committee as well.
So I asked for that and was told that was being worked on this summer, so I'm a
Right.
little
I think
confused.
as to stage
Timeline.
1, I agree with you, but I thought stage 2 and 3, my understanding of the last meeting was we wanted more clarity on what that would encompass, and that was being developed. So are you telling me that stage 1, 2, and 3 are defined?
I was totally mistaken. We went back and it's like, wait a second, we've already done that. So stage 2 and stage 3 document, the template was already created, and it has been shared out with the teachers.
But I'm not talking about the template. I'm talking about how the process is going to work, what the teacher's role is going to be, what the curriculum coordinator's role is going to be, what exactly the depth of the deliverable is going to be, how much information should be on these things, when they're going to be expected. I mean, just to say, okay, here's the template of what we're going to be looking for, that's great, and that's certainly part of it, but it's the overall encompass. I mean, this is like a massive 3-year type project.
So that is what I was referring to in content area PD, curriculum meetings, their individual planning times. So what happens is the curriculum coordinators physically sit down with groups of teachers, and they work with them collaboratively together and go line by line and work together. What does this mean? What's an example of this? What do you think this should be?
Is there a document saying that, and then has that been communicated to the teachers? You're telling me that now, and that's great, but like, how do the teachers know that?
Because they've been working with the curriculum coordinators ever since they've been here.
I think that
And they've
there's
had-
clearly there's some unclarity around this as well, and so we're trying to come up with better ways to communicate this. I think what I thought we were hearing in the spring or early summer was there were questions about the timeline, and that was, we wanted to map that out. It does differ from group to group depending on where they are, but it certainly is going to be a multi-year process, and even though ideally we would like maybe by year 3 of the strategic plan having most of that work done, but I suspect some of it will go into the 5-year process. By the time we end up in 2027, we should have all the areas aligned there.
I mean, it's a timeline, but it's then also then how do you get through the timeline? What time will the teachers have to do that? Are they expected to do it during planning time, during PD? I mean, just the more information about the entire process, I just think that it is very, very important because there is just a lot of uncertainty and unknown, and there's just a lot of, I don't want to say anxiety, but just, consternation about the overall process. So
I'd be happy to I'm putting together a curriculum newsletter for the staff.
Great.
So I'd be happy to spell that out a little bit more in there.
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, and thinking ahead to negotiating the contract this year, that might even be come up in the contract as far as minutes of free time per day. And if that's all being taken up by this,
Curriculum work is in the contract already.
okay.
There is stipulations that they are supposed to be working on that exist. So just take a look at that.
Take a look at that.
Yeah, and I think that part about what we support here is also that we have grade leaders at elementary, team leaders at the middle school. We have curriculum support staff at Miller and Placentino, two reading, or I should say literacy, I'm sorry, it's actually humanities, right?
I'm sorry,
The
math
two
and
literacy
science.
people are, we have a Placentino and a Miller.
Correct.
Full-time people that work with students, but also develop the curriculum. And we also just added back, we have a new hire for pre-K to 5 just for math, so she'll be able to support staff in the building as well. At the middle school, we have the curriculum liaison there, and then we have department leaders at the high school, and they do work with they meet as departments once a month as well. So, I mean, there's various ways, and yes, that's part of the reason that planning exists for all of the things that we do.
So if you could send me the documents that you sent to the committee before I join, that would be great. But just to be clear, there isn't sort of that sort of overarching, sort of overall sort of document about what exactly we're doing in stage 2 and stage 3 and how it's done and when it's being delivered.
Okay, and I think for clarity, I think if we could review that.
Yep.
Or take a look
I
at
think
that.
it's in this one that was the presentation from November.
Okay.
Does that sound familiar? It has one where it says the curriculum review process, and there's one link that goes to district curriculum review process, and there's another one that says DESE curriculum support guide.
No,
That's
it's
a different one.
it's on the website already.
Okay.
Okay.
It's been posted on the website since last fall. And it's on the teaching and learning. I'm pulling it up right now. Let's see here. Under teaching and learning. And if you go to
Just
mapping curriculum.
Curriculum review process?
Mapping curriculum. You know what?
remember
I
seeing
think that is what we shared with teachers, so I will share it with you. I apologize. The teachers got it last.
Got what?
Last fall, the template for 1, 2, and 3.
Right, but again, I'm not talking about the template. I'm talking about sort of how do you get to what is then put into the template and the process and who they're supposed to work with, what the timing of that all is, laying out sort of the groundwork of what the project is, right? You need like there needs to be a project roadmap, not just sort of like here's what the end deliverable is going to sort of look like, but how you get there.
Can you clarify more? I'm not quite sure I understand, because the main role of the 3 curriculum coordinators is to do that work collaboratively with the teachers. So that is their main job. So I'm not, to work with them at faculty meetings when they have time, continuity of PD, at separate trainings, at curriculum meetings. There's no one way. There's no just one specific time that they're working on it with them. So can you clarify more what you're looking for? Because I'm not following.
I guess, to me, the template is you're presenting a car, and you're just showing me the picture of the car. What I'm saying is, how is the car going to get built?
And that's what the 3 curriculum.
But you've got 3 curriculum
coordinators.
coordinators. Is one building a Kia, one building a Toyota, and one building a BMW? I'd be like,
Everybody's on the exact same page. That's why we have one template. And all 3 of them are training everybody the exact same way. We've gone through the trainings.
So I think this, I can speak back to when I was a director of curriculum, is that it's not always the same for everybody because there's different content, and it's hard to map out exactly what it's going to look like when there's so many different just the way they map curriculum and the content themselves. When I started mapping curriculum, we start with the standards and we map out the timeline of that, and then we add the resources, and then we started creating staff assessment, common assessments, which none of that would be on what parents can see. This is all for staff to have access to, so that ultimately it should be less work for them because they were all accessing the same materials. But it's very hard to just say exactly when we're going to get there because they're assessing as they go, and it's really hard to. In my years of doing it, I've never actually said, okay, we're going to be here by such and such a time. We just keep trying to move the group forward, if that makes sense.
Right, I'm not so much focused on exact timelines, but sort of more the process, who's going to do the work, sort of what the context of them doing the work is going to be. It seems like there's a disconnect.
Do you mean like the curriculum review of what curriculum they're
No.
reviewing and then what process they're using to do it?
I mean, what identifies the formative and summative assessments that teachers will use? I'm talking about the different stages of this process. What is contained within there? A curriculum review is then a separate thing which may impact what's in those documents. We're going through a math curriculum review right now, right?
Teachers are, I'm not sure I'm following you, because teachers currently, before we even had this template, they were developing, I mean, Amanda can tell you, teachers develop formative and summative assessments all the time. I mean, they're responsible to do that. This is just documenting it. So the curriculum coordinators.
So what are you asking of them? So to tell them what you're, because it doesn't seem like from conversations that I've had, they understand what they're.
Because if they're not there yet, Dan, you're going to totally overload people if you go through, when we get to stage 3, you're going to be doing this, 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 and this. So what's happening is the 3 district curriculum coordinators are differentiating just like we do for students. That's what we should do for staff, that we meet them where they're at. So if they're still in stage 1, they're giving them details about stage 1. They're not going to get in the minutia on stage 2 because you're just freaking them out. You're talking about stage 1. You're concentrating on stage 1. Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying, but it seems like there's already a lot of either misinformation or misunderstanding or just so. We can take this offline, but I mean, I just think that.
I'm trying to understand, is stage 3 encompass uploading specific lesson plans and resources such that it takes away from the development and implementation of curriculum by individual teacher to basically organize and create this database?
No.
Who's doing the work? Are we uploading individual lesson plans? And if so, who's doing all of that work and when are
Nobody's
they
even
doing
remotely close to stage 3.
Not
So
whether we're
that's not-
close, whether it
I
encompasses
think they want to
that.
know what stage 3 encompasses.
So what happens right now is that, like I'm going to give you an example. High school science has mapped out and documented their resources, okay? They have all those things uploaded. We're just going to have to put them in the template. So those things exist that the teachers created long before we had any curriculum coordinators.
So how does that happen?
How does that happen? They put it up on
They've
Google
done it over
Drive.
years, yeah.
So is the curriculum coordinator capturing it from an existing link? Or are they
Correct.
having the teachers upload their individual plans? Syllabus,
They are having
lesson-
them capture it from what they have, and then they're working collaboratively with the teachers and say, is this right? Or like, hey, we need to tweak this. What would you think about this?
So they're capturing what they already have and then
Correct.
saying, where are the holes?
Right.
Yeah.
And then helping to support them to develop.
And that's based on the
pieces.
standards. So like we have to make sure that all the curriculum they're teaching meets the standards.
Okay, but so
And that the assessments that they're creating or have already created also meets the standards.
I still think laying out a roadmap so people do know what's ahead of them, because again, these are teachers, these are professionals, these are not children being taught. You're not going to overload them. In fact, it may help them do the first stages if they know where they're going at the end, because then they can sort of see, look, I'm not an educator. I don't know the first thing about creating a curriculum map. I probably shouldn't admit that, but I don't. So I don't know, but I'm sure there are things that when you're doing stage 1, if you know what stage exactly you're supposed to be doing for stage 3, that you can do the overall process maybe even more
They
efficiently.
do have that, though. They have that whole template. They've had it since last year.
So I-
So they have the
all
whole
three
big
phases.
picture.
It sounds
Yeah.
like people are still confused, so maybe we can talk about how
Yeah.
we can
I would say
help
teachers should
reassure
reach
people.
out to Joni and to Susan if they don't understand,
They
or the
absolutely should.
curriculum coordinators if they're confused as to what the process is.
And if we have.
And they should, absolutely, because nobody wants them to be
Absolutely.
confused. We want them to know where
We
they're
also
going.
want people to feel that if struggling to fulfill what is being
Or they have
asked.
to recreate the wheel. They probably
Right.
already have what they
Correct.
need
Just
within
ensuring that
the
they're covering all
existing
of it.
templates of what they've been working with. They're just trying to fit it into that model because DESE is telling us that we're not insufficient in that way.
Correct.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Right, but DESE also has a whole bunch of things, like if you go onto the Hopkinton website, they basically copied the DESE standards onto their website. I don't know,
But they have these, I mean, I reached out to Carol Kavanaugh, and they've done the same
Okay.
work. They
Yeah,
just
they're
don't
doing
publish,
this-
not
yeah.
everybody puts it on their website.
Right.
And we're not going to be putting stage 2 and 3 on the
Correct.
website. We're
No,
just
that's
doing
for
the bare
teachers,
minimum.
yeah.
But I think also trying to reassure parents, too, that we are teaching the standards, and that having them housed there is showing what we're not doing when we have people asking, assuming that we're teaching things that they don't want us teaching,
Right.
too, so.
well, no, I don't think that the absence of something is a proof that we don't do it, but, I mean, I know you aren't, but I'm just saying, like, that, anyway.
I'm just wondering if it would be useful, or I don't know if there's any scenarios where we've done all of the stages, like even for one class,
No.
so that there was an example. that
There's
just
just
and maybe
but
there's too
undertaken by
much
design
variety
examples, but-
across
Maybe
the
looking at
different.
some exemplars and sharing out some exemplars from other places.
And I know they have, the individual curriculum coordinators are doing that with the teachers, but we can share some more out.
So I just say that this
I mean-
is also one of the reasons why I requested or suggested that we do some sort of survey of teachers about this process to see where they're at. Maybe some aren't comfortable coming forward and asking questions because they've got enough on their plate. The last thing they have to do, want to do, but they're still concerned about it. So, anyway, we can move on. We can put it back on the agenda and talk about it. Or we can have a separate meeting. But I think that it is something that is very important because we're obviously putting a lot of resources into it.
I think finding out what staff feel they need more support with would be a good question to ask. Specifically, what do you feel like you need more support with for this process?
Yeah, exactly.
Because at some point, if people feel like they're not able to get done what will end up helping them in the end, maybe we can provide sub-coverage at some time. Certainly not now, because we know that we have shortages. But I mean, at some point, I know that that was one thing I was able to do when I was starting from scratch. When the Common Core came out, was I literally we had a second grade teacher from each building, and we would bring them together, and they would be my go-to people, and quarterly we'd go through and work, and then they would go back to their teams. But we use substitutes for that purpose so that they had a little more free time. But teachers don't also like to be out of the classroom.
Yeah, and I guess
Right.
I would worry that, I know this is very important, but the most important thing for teachers to do is be in the classroom most effectively teaching. So I just want to make sure that none of this work takes away from that,
And that's
right?
what
Because
we're
a
trying to
lot of this is documenting it for the parents and things like that, which of course is valid, but if it's not actually helping the
I want to
teachers,
say,
yeah,
it's
not helping the students.
The stage 1 is helpful because the parents can see it as well.
And stage 2 is mostly for the teachers.
But stage,
and three, right?
you cannot do stage 2 or 3 without having done stage 1. So
Right.
it is ultimately to help support our staff. But initially, if you have not mapped the curriculum, which we found that some buildings were not mapping the standards at all, so it does seem overwhelming at first. But we will get there, and we will, again, differentiate and slow down the pace as needed. And it doesn't mean, we don't have a definitive deadline for that reason. It's just a work in
And
progress.
maybe teachers have more flexibility with stage 2 and 3 as far as like, if they've already created a Google Drive that's organized by timeline or whatever, they can just give what they've already done instead of tweaking that so it fits the template.
Well, that's what the curriculum
That's what
coordinators
they
do more
do it.
with. But I'm going to go back to stage 1 is really critical for the teachers too, because you're identifying what standards have not been taught.
And the units that will be.
Right.
And we want to empower our teachers
Right.
to have a voice, because they're the ones that are teaching it, so it should be what they
Correct.
can accomplish as a teacher throughout the year as well.
And just to be clear, it's not so that like when we get to stage 3, every teacher is like a robot and they're just teaching like exactly the same way. It's that they were just making sure that in across a grade, like across first grade, the standards are going to be met in every class, all 12 classes of first grade, and teachers have the freedom to teach use local assessments or ones that they've found that work for them in their classrooms, and should, because we want to empower teachers as professionals to be able to use the tools that they've learned over probably the decades of experience so many of our teachers have in order to teach their kids, and they know their kids best. But we absolutely need to make sure that we're teaching the standards so that scaffolds from year to year to year, so we don't have these huge gaps, which we're still trying to recover from in COVID mostly, but also prior to that. And we have been dinged by DESE a number of times for not having a clear pathway, and that is what precipitated, I think, bringing on the curriculum coordinators.
And this is also about the equity for
I hope that
students,
was
trying to have some
succinct
kind of
enough.
minimum expectations at all tier one.
Right.
Really what we're talking about. And this is what came up frequently in the survey questions, and I think, Amanda, you were on my team when we went through all the survey, the curriculum, we heard loud and clear from the community that they felt concerned that there were a lot of inequities and not a clear understanding of what was being taught.
And there was a big message about the rigor of our classes, right, and being tied to standards too. That was feedback we got from the community.
Okay. We'll continue marching on, unless there's anything else. All right, Mr. Boudet.
If you go to your packets, there's a file called the final, and when you see the title, it's the preliminary final. I'm not trying to be oxymoronic, but, preliminary final. Not all the transactions have been posted, and we're still clearing up some of our open purchase orders. Every year we have a series of open purchase orders for things that were purchased, especially in the year, that maybe product has not come in yet. And so we have to determine which ones we think are going to go forward and not. So those are things we're working through because we don't want to encumber too much money. That's, when you have an open purchase order in a year, you'll encumber it just to get the expense in the correct year. And so we're working through that. But again, where we're sitting right now, we should be right on budget. Just from big, large categories, administration is basically the central administration, or Susan's office, curriculum, my offices, technology, your guys' expenses. It's that piece. The 2000 series is everything in the classroom, whether it be teacher, para, supplies, equipment, not equipment, supplies, supports, counselors, et cetera, et cetera. The 3,000 student services, that's not special ed student services, that's things like transportation, nursing, and athletics and activities. 4,000 is buildings, that's maintenance, both staff, contracted services, utilities. Benefits is our long-term disability policy. Equipment is things we buy, a lot of it's technology, and tuition is obviously out-of-district tuitions. Again, these are the numbers that we've been running pretty true to most of the year. The big underspending in classroom is mostly payroll. Not going to hide from that. Between deficits that we've had in teacher staffing, which is annual. I mean, we budget 100% of teachers. Well, in 23 we did. 24 we budgeted 99%. We budget 100% of teachers in 23, 100% of paras in 23, and we've had ongoing staffing issues. But again, we also had some supply chain issues with regards to some orders literally got canceled. So again, the overall savings there was expected. The student services over expenditures was really related to transportation, both general ed and special ed transportation. Buildings is mostly utilities, a few larger repairs, but mostly utilities, and tuition is tuition. It was normal increase in rates, which we expected, a few additional placement outs that we had not been anticipating. So overall, I think we ended the year in good shape, and onward and upward.
So Keith, the code 4,000 buildings,
Yep.
the 2,685,000 or 2,686,000, that is utilities, but it's also repair and maintenance in the building?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And cleaning is the custodial contract, but that's really a fixed contract, so that's, we may be a little bit off for extra duties and things like that, but it's really a fixed situation.
Okay, we were over 206,000 on that repair and maintenance utilities on it?
Yeah.
Okay.
How much of that was utilities?
Most,
Most of it.
probably 62.5% of it or something.
Okay. Because we have our capital budgets to,
Well, again, it's
Do
just
some
the,
bigger-
and again, capital budget does take care of a large portion of it. That is, again, we missed the fuel oil price by about a buck a gallon. On 110,000 gallons. So, it's, I mean, originally it came in at $1.50 over, and we just didn't lock in because I just couldn't do that. So I'm patting myself on the back for only missing it by a buck.
Good job.
But, again, that's where the market went. So we're in much better shape this year. So we're right on it, so.
and Keith, for tuition, we're almost 300,000 over. Do we have that increased number projected for this upcoming year? We do, okay.
Do we?
And again, this year's number, though, again, is that 14% increase.
That's what I was
as well.
going to ask you about that. Is there any
again,
movement on that to discuss with the?
It's funding.
I know.
People talk formula, it's funding. It doesn't matter what
I
you
know.
change the formula to. They didn't put it, they only put 14% more money to cover 14% more expenses.
Wondering whether
That's a wash.
there's any discussion at the
No.
state. Okay.
No, it's the formula change is a boondoggle. It just is. Until you put money,
I
it
know.
does not
Just need
matter.
to appropriate money for it.
I lost train of thought now.
Tuition?
Yeah, no, I know, it was the, but again, we have about $500,000 more that we're spending as in the, in circuit breaker that's coming towards us. We had actually set aside, I believe it was like 1.7, 1.8, maybe 1.75, so we actually have about $100,000 extra in there to help us with that from what we have to spend next year.
Okay.
But that's just for next year.
Yeah, well, circuit breaker goes depending,
I know.
the more you spend out, the more you get back the following year, so.
And I know I sent you and Travis an email, but we're in communication to make sure that, we're not going to start construction on Washington Street,
Well, you say that, but
Getting
we got some news today that,
Yes, so we have to look into this, because I heard from a source that Highland Street may be being worked on opening school day. And I saw, this is, so we have to dig into that, and it may be state, right?
Again,
So-
you-
It's probably the state, right? They don't
Highland is
care.
not a state road.
unless they're doing the intersection with Highlands
But I'm
and
not sure. I
Route
don't
16.
know.
I know, you heard it in the meeting, I didn't,
So
so
we
I
have
have to
to
go
look
on.
into that, but
Reach out to the town administrator. We also heard that even though that the project that was going on Woodland Street, you heard the same thing, the project on Woodland Street, which I had been assured was going to be packed up and gone on Friday, may not be. And I'm not sure how you run a detour through a school,
So we may need some advocacy here, but we're gonna start the ball rolling.
Well, I love to pick up the phone and yell at people, so
I'm just not
tell-
sure
just tell me
where the
who.
fault
Don't do
is.
it late at night.
I don't know where the,
I mean, at least maybe if we
Well, that's an
could,
Eversource project.
at least
You get
maybe,
more bees with honey than with vinegar, so maybe.
we've tried that.
I don't know.
We tried the honey, but you know what, you get stung
I'm
a
talking to
lot.
Daniel, not you guys.
I don't know.
You've already done that.
I get things done.
So we'll get an update
Well,
regarding that.
we'll
We're
be having
I'm
getting an
gonna
update
find out tomorrow.
And then if there is anything, let's communicate it out with the district and
If we
just,
can't find some sort of resolution on this tomorrow and Monday, because we're running out of time, we'll communicate it out to folks to expect.
Delays.
We have plans in place for the Central Street, Bullard Street issue. We routed the buses not through it anymore. We're making crazy U-turns, so.
Are they just paving? Like, what is the deal?
No, it's a water placement, a culvert replacement.
That's also
It's
happening
yes.
on the
Yeah.
opening day Central Street?
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's actually a really important project.
is
Because
important.
it links the new water treatment plant to the
Yes,
rest of
but
the.
like, you're right.
No, it shouldn't
There's only
start on opening day.
And we have no information yet on the Winter Street project, which is going to be another,
What Winter Street
What?
project?
they have to do I think it's 3 culverts on Winter Street.
Oh, yeah.
So as opposed to running our buses up Winter Street, we're going to have to make circles on Winter
There's
Street.
like 45 stops on Winter Street.
I know that very
Oh, my
well.
God.
So
How is the Woodland Street Bridge impacting the bus schedules?
it's not good. We discovered that with the lack of traffic being able to cut through, the only people coming down are people who actually have business at the school. So it's cut down on the amount of traffic on Woodland Street getting to the schools. It's just that we have a longer trip around, and we can't seem to encourage the powers that be to have a permanent station at the top of Elm Street to clear out Elm Street for a couple hours in the morning and a couple hours in the afternoon. It's
Yeah.
what we need. When the few times that we actually had an officer out there clearing it out for us,
Makes a
it
huge
was
difference.
it was just much better because all those parents have to come out that way, and everybody heading west. Excuse me, east. Sorry, not everybody not heading west will be going up Elm
Left or right,
and
just
backing it all up, and it's just a killer.
I ran into it, I was
Like, I know
coming
what
down
east or west
Elm
is
to go
when
to one of the
Santa Fe
buildings, to get to one of the buildings that was still open, and I remember buses were trying to swing, and I was at the end, and I'm like, I can't even go anywhere, they couldn't even
Can
swing.
we put in a plea for next week, and at least the following week, as we're getting bus schedules set, for them to go at least help out on Elm Street?
We know HPD's down a little bit, so we're going to
I've got a
see.
compass on there?
Come
Come on,
we'll
stop
see.
it.
I may go out and direct traffic and threaten to arrest me.
7 days, a plea.
Again, I've got my
Police have
yellow
more,
vest.
all right, hold on a second, guys. The police do have some additional officers that they've been hiring, so,
I'm not available.
Oh, right.
I don't know.
I don't know if they are in the hiring process.
why, I don't know. Anyway,
Can we outsource a traffic?
No,
What?
We have
the police control traffic. That's why the crossing guards report to HPD and things like that. They're very.
They're union, right?
They're union, and again, it's their position, so we couldn't do that.
Okay.
And crossing guards can't direct traffic.
I was just gonna say, I know.
but you can.
I have.
Haven't Kennard.
What time is that? It makes you think we watch
people
it.
differentiate. You got the vest on, then people are just gonna do what they tell you to
I think we
do.
have a better chance of directing traffic, which I've done as well, on the campus versus on the roads. I mean, it makes it a little trickier.
Yeah, I've never done it on the roads.
Any other questions for Keith? All right. Moving on to, because apparently we've still got a lot of work to do.
7:55.
We're an hour and a half
Look, we started 10 minutes late, so, anyway, so on personnel, so we got some stipends to review and potentially approve.
Do you have those in the?
Yeah, they're in there.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, so we got the, which one's first? I'll just go
athletic
grab band,
coordinator.
just because I have band first.
Okay, well,
Is it just called band?
Well,
Yes, it's just full band.
because we have a jazz
You know,
band, and then we have a
Keith, can we
band.
do something about how you name
No, it's fine.
things?
So wait, can
It's in the
Did you get the
contract.
point
you
across?
remind us of the ratio? Like I
sorry.
see these numbers of,
They just don't mean
The
anything.
formula within the contract?
Yeah.
Do you want me to?
The formula within the contract has a
but does it
number.
equate with a dollar amount?
Yes, it does. You take the combination of time
Yeah.
plus responsibility plus experience up to 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Multiply times 297.80.
297.80. Okay, that's fine.
So,
so the cost of the band director change is what?
297.80.
Additional 297.
$297.80.
Correct.
Last year we increased about 1,500, right?
Yes.
So it's about 1,800, I'm
Okay.
sorry, yeah.
So-
1,800 over the 2 year.
can I just, we had this conversation last year, and we're about to launch into our collective bargaining, right? So I'm confused, again, like, I think this is the appropriate time to talk about it, but I just feel like, shouldn't we be looking at all of them and trying to, I'm not saying that we have to negotiate and add whatever we need to add, but,
So within the contract allows the school committee to do a full review. We can do a full review, but unless the advisor requests a review of the administration, my read anyway, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the administration cannot, of its own volition, really commit.
Well, you can. I mean, the provision allows for you that you could sit there and say, or it's the review committee can sit there and say that we believe that this club, has less kids or less time or more kids or more time. You can request that committee to go down that path. The difficulty
We can request that.
The review committee can. The review committee can be called upon to raise or lower a stipend.
Okay.
I will say that in 23 years, I don't think one has ever gone down. I'm just being honest. I'm not
right, but
being-
aren't there some that are not even being used? Because like that, I don't know where our list of every single stipend
Right,
is.
so if
We're
they're
going
not
to do that
used-
next school
Yeah,
committee.
if they're not used for 3 years, then you can remove them from the
Well,
contract.
that's what I'm saying, like, I feel
That's
like it needs to be
housekeeping during
reallocated,
negotiations.
so that we know that we're not just saying, we're just gonna expand it 10,000 every single year or whatever.
We
to add
don't
new ones.
necessarily, it's not that it's being reallocated because we don't set aside a dollar amount for every single club in the contract. We don't. We do it based on what happened last year and any recommendations
Okay.
for it to exist or
All
not
right.
exist. And depending on who the advisor is, it's not science. It depends on who the advisor is,
Yeah.
because you may go from an experience of 5 down to 1. And that happens often.
Okay.
And so, you're.
It's a hard thing to budget
It's
for.
It
again.
is. Is there a better way of doing it is sort of what I'm trying to.
So I've been reviewing contracts, and every other contract I've looked at, which now is like 15, everything is listed in the contract
Yep.
Because they
every
don't have
stipend.
this.
As just a dollar amount.
Yes.
as a dollar.
Yes.
that's
And sometimes there are 3 levels, which
Yes.
account for experience, or even 5 levels accounting for, like, steps, but it's all
Yes.
in the contract.
That is an absolute truth.
So is that something that we could, as a negotiating team for,
We
I
can certainly bring it up, but
think this may be an inappropriate venue for discussions on collective bargaining.
no,
I would agree with that.
That's fair. I'm just asking.
And
but
if you're
this-
Should be, it's
advisory-
something that we
This
should.
process is in the contract as it stands now, so this is what we have to
Yes.
deal with at the moment.
That's fine. I'm just,
Look at
So
page
back,
as we're
back
looking at it.
to,
Okay, that's
back
fine.
to it.
So-
Athletic coordinator?
So we're on the band,
Just like-
band, so, does anyone does anyone have any questions or comments about the change for the band director?
Not really, no.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to, what do we want, the motion, do you want to give me a dollar amount?
The increase,
To
no, the
improve,
factor.
to improve the time factor from 6 to 7 for the band director and subsequent salary, subsequent stipend change.
There is no stipend change necessarily. I mean, it depends on who the
Right, it
advisor is
might
going
not
to
be
be.
more money,
This doesn't relate to the
somebody
advisor, this relates to the
experienced,
position.
Oh, fine, right. So the
Time
time
6 to
factor
7,
from
yeah.
6 to 7 for the band director.
Moved by Cynthia.
Second by Dawn.
All right.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That carries 6-0. Wonderful. All right, now we'll do the athletic coordinator. Got a little more going on here.
It's kind of below, under Rams cord.
I think you can figure it out.
I don't see.
So the time is
I'm
up
just
by
saying,
2.
Look, I'm racing to throw something in there, okay?
I popped it up on the
No,
screen.
you just put a separate
And the
one.
what's changed of the responsibility, where's that difference of 7
So-
in responsibility?
Yeah, so when we talked to the principal, he noted that there's been an increase of the number of students
Participating, yeah.
and that's wonderful. So that's why we increased the number that was supervised there. And the number of events, I think it was more, that they're attending more.
There's more events, there's more
Coaches.
coaches because there's more
More
kids.
coaches, that's right.
It's just grown, which is good. That's a good thing. We may be discussing this year a change in the structure or the amount of the fee as well, because it's supposed to be, the original plan was have to be self-funded, and it hasn't been in a while.
So you want us to increase fees, huh?
I'm just telling you, if you want this to be considered self-funded, you're going to have to adjust the fee. So,
Okay.
more events means more transportation.
Do you want
That's the simplest thing.
What is the loss on it? Do we,
sorry?
what are we losing if it's not self-funded? How much?
What are we spending?
7,000 to 8,000?
Total?
No, over what we're collecting.
Rams.
Right.
At Rams.
But
yeah.
not per sport?
No.
Okay.
I mean, we had a bad year. One year was about 15.
Well, let's review the whole thing. I think this
No,
is
exactly.
a history of the fee. When was the last time we
This
raised
is
it? How does it look?
right. We've never raised it.
Access
Okay.
to things like
Okay,
facility.
and again, it's transportation. It's more events, more schools that are participating. It's transportation.
Higher transportation costs.
Yeah.
Yep.
And can you just remind us, it's at 220 at the high school, but it's like
225 at the high school.
175.
175
Yeah.
at the middle school. Okay, but it is typically less days too. Like we need an analysis of the days that are provided too.
But again, the appropriation supports a portion of the high school athletics. So, by plan.
The dollar amount of this suggested change, or the anticipated dollar amount of this?
Again, if
I know
you were just going by the increase, you're looking at a 5.4, but it depends on what the experience level is. So if it was just strictly for the time and responsibility, you're looking at
1,600, 1,700.
1,600. So, yeah,
What was the dollar?
1,600.
about 1,600.
Because we do have an individual in this position, so.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Move to approve the renegotiated factors for the Rams athletic coordinator.
Second by Dawn.
Any further deliberations or discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Carries 6-0. And then do you want to present the last one, Dr. Kuska? We don't have anything, and I didn't send any out. It's for a
Oh, yeah,
stipend.
sorry,
It's
yes.
for a stipend for essentially producing school committee minutes, working
Oh, yeah,
with
yeah.
agendas, things like that.
Do we have, is there anything in this
No.
packet for people to
No,
review?
I had shared some information, it's just comparison data, that what we've seen is we've had an increase in our subcommittee meetings and throughout the last couple of years. There used to be a stipend as part of, there was a separate, you can speak to the history a little bit more, Keith, than I can, but there used to be someone that was offered a stipend to do additional school committee information, and then it was reduced budgetarily, correct?
Yeah, we, going back to the dark ages, we used to actually have a school committee secretary would show up here, get paid an hourly wage to sit in the meetings, take the minutes, produce the minutes, et cetera, and go from there. It evolved to more time, doing more of the posting, more of that. It then transferred to doing it from the recordings, when we started doing recordings in 2005, I think it was. Through the budget process and bad budget years, trying to save every little nickel we could. It went away. Maybe there may have been a member of the administrative staff who took the minutes for a period of a couple of years. I've done everything.
Is he an assistant superintendent of finance and
Yeah, it
operations?
was.
We've done everything at some point in time. We've then now gone back to having somebody do it from the recordings, which has been a very effective way of being able to produce the minutes in a timely fashion.
But they still have to.
But no,
spend
but it
the
still
whole
takes
amount of
time. Oh, no, it is not an easy process of somebody who had to do it. It is not easy, and I'm not going to do it again.
As well as agendas and all the materials that go in your folders. We're just finding
Right.
it's the requirements
Yep.
and the needs have just grown so much that we felt that it would be, and we looked into other districts, the salary, for the position that we currently have an executive assistant / HR supervisor. Executive assistant actually helps support Joni's role and my role, and we do have an HR clerical person who helps support somewhat, but the school committee work is also part of our HR supervisor, executive assistant, and the role itself without the school committee in other districts is getting more. I mean, I gave a lot of data to you that we could share out to the committee if they wanted to see it, but a lot of them are either they've built in a larger salary to encompass this,
Yeah.
or they've had these stipends. It varies from district to district, but right now, it is Lisa that's doing the yeoman's work here. Certainly, we would advertise this, and then if other people were interested in applying for the stipend piece, but then that would be training somebody else to do all the stuff that Lisa's already been doing.
So do you want to share your proposal?
So the total, we were looking at $4,000 for a yearly stipend for this role, which is not on the high end. It's probably in the middle, I think, Keith, would you say?
I'd say it's reasonably in the middle.
Yeah.
For who?
For Lisa DeLuz, yeah.
Well,
Extra for Lisa.
Well, she's the
people
one
would
that's
have
doing
to,
it
we
right
would have to
now.
post it internally, and
Sure,
people would
sure,
apply, but more than likely, I mean, she's doing all that work currently on weekends, or a lot of times what she's doing is if she has to do things during the day for school committee, she's bringing tons of her HR work and doing it on the weekend, and I see her sending emails on the weekends and everything else. The work is just, it's over the top at this point.
Busy lady.
So any questions, thoughts, concerns?
I mean, I see the need for it. It's hard for me to keep hearing about, well, it's not hard for me, but like, I feel like we keep hearing about more like central office positions, like the new HR, but there's a new this person, there's a new this person, new this person. And I understand individually why it's necessary, but I can see how like the community as a whole might be like, wait, they're adding another thing in central office? How about another paraprofessional for this, for my kids, such and such? How about another special ed teacher, such and such? I don't know. It just, and it's $4,000. It's not like that's going to fund another history teacher or something. But it just seems like central office is getting ramped up and ramped up.
I will clarify, because you showed some history, that there were 2 people in HR that were reduced down at a time when the expectations from the state level. Corey Safis, we actually found we were non-compliant, and there was a lot of there were a lot of protocols that were not in place from a safety perspective. That made me very nervous, and we found that one person could not do that work. So yes, when it was cut, we may do as a district, but to be honest with you, having built a whole personnel department in a larger district, we weren't meeting the needs. So that's all and well until you're cited in the newspaper for having a sex offender because a Corey or a Sapphic was, I mean, this is the reality of what can happen to us as a district. Or because something wasn't sent out in a, trust me,
so we
we've
need
been
good
lucky.
stuff.
We've been lucky that things did not bubble up.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, we'll entertain a motion.
You have to say the motion, Minnie.
Oh, I'm sorry. What do I say?
That we authorize the superintendent to create a
stipend
stipended
position.
for school committee support in the amount of $4,000.
So
What Dan said.
What Dan
Seconded.
All right, any further deliberation? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Carries. Okay. Agenda. Okay, communication. So Mary Greendale's working on a book for Holliston's 300th. She reached out to me because, well, I guess she'd been trying to get in touch with somebody. She wants a submission from the school committee. And so then I talked with Amanda, as the sort of the head of communications, and she drafted something, and I think she sent it out earlier.
So I shared this with all of you, like, within the course of this week.
I did not
Like,
see
7.
it.
It just-
No, I just did, at like,
Okay.
at 7 o'clock or 7:15 or something.
No, I definitely didn't see
So
it.
you didn't get the opportunity to look at it before the meeting. But I basically just paraphrased the strategic plan because when we did do the strategic plan, we looked deeply, and many people other than me had input into thinking about like the goals of the district and the priorities of the district and stuff. So I just took it from that, but maybe we want to add something that's more specific to like the 7 of ours goals. And if that's the case, I don't know if we need to discuss that right now without folks having some time to think about it. But if people maybe want to email me with like, I want you to say that we as a school committee are working on XYZ, then I can add that in.
The issues, and I don't know how much flexibility there really is. I'm not. She sort of first gave me the 21st deadline, and so I said, well, we're not meeting until the 24th, and this would be something that I want to be reviewed by the whole committee. I don't know if we want to try to push it to the 14th, because I know at some point the book needs to go to press.
It was due August 21st or it was due September 21st?
August 21st.
It was due August 21st.
Well, that was the deadline she gave. Well, yeah, I mean, that was the deadline she gave me.
I know that Stacy Raffi provided something to her.
Right. I know, well, there's been stuff on in different aspects of it. She said the school
Yeah.
committee has not, as a school committee, kind of given her anything. All I know is that the finance committee has actually given her something, so, we certainly don't want to look, worse than those guys.
I'm okay in light of the deadline then, waiving, adding specific additions. There's a couple things maybe
Yeah,
we'd be
if
open
folks
to
like
talking about
feedback,
it. Like
of course. Yeah,
with
yeah.
the second sentence where it says we are committed to doing our best to make. Could we change it instead of us making the schools the best they can, like us supporting
Yeah.
others? So because I don't feel like
We're not
we're
doing-
making it, we're supporting.
To support
Our best to support.
the teachers, administration and staff.
Yes, something like that. Our educators and, yeah, or just, we support the educators in making Holliston, because
Educators, administration, and staff.
you're right. I think
Educators,
that-
administration staff making the
educators
Holliston
too.
schools the best they can be.
Is that okay?
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
appreciate this. Like, this is not my forte.
And I think, Amanda, the one thing from a historical perspective, because Mary had asked me and I just didn't have time, and the only thing I could think of was from a historic perspective, in the last 25 years, the two major accomplishments that has happened with the schools, it was the $77 million building project from 98 to 2001 to either build new, renovate, add, or renovate each of the schools here, and then getting full day K.
Yeah.
I think we should
Again,
mention the
two-
full day K, and maybe then as a goal and aspiration, we should talk about, seeking, SOI approval for a new high school as well. Because one of the things when I talked with her is she wanted, also, what are we looking forward to the future. Basically, I think it's something like in 25 years when we're doing the 325th to say, did those guys actually accomplish
And I did write something up for her. I'm not sure it's what she wanted, but I believe I put full
She wanted
vacation
to,
there.
she asked you about something about educating during COVID, just to kind of just
Yeah.
highlight what that was like, kind of thing. So there is some things represented from the school committee. I just want to be clear.
Well, no, I mean,
There's
nothing
some out
represented from the school committee. There's people who's represented from the schools.
I think that historical perspective is really important. I also think when I think of what defines us or makes us different, I think of our French immersion and our Montessori programs.
And I think I put that as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I
Yeah.
heard some-
And just our strong commitment to continuing supporting those programs, in perpetuity. So I'm also okay sort of approving this with any sort of additional changes you want to make before, subject to your edits, and then send it to Mary
I
tomorrow.
would just add the 77 million for the Woodland Street project, and then also the.
Is that like the building of
Yeah.
Placentino
Yeah.
School?
No. It was the building of Placentino, the rent ad of Miller, the rent ad
Yeah.
of
And when was that done?
98 to 2001.
Yes, good, thank you.
Do we have anything else, or are we ready? I could make a motion to approve the school committee statement for the 300th anniversary booklet as drafted by Amanda, subject to revisions and supplements we discussed
At her discretion.
at her discretion. Are we good?
Second.
Okay.
All's in favor? Aye. That carries. Thank you, Amanda, for putting that together.
Thank you. It looks great.
All right. So any more updates from communications?
No, sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Policy?
I have, our next meeting is Tuesday, September 26th at 10:30 in the morning.
Okay. Budget.
Budget had 2 meetings over the summer on July 17th and also on July 25th. We had reviewed the FY23. We received an FY23 budget update. We talked about ESSER and ARPA approved spending, approved versus expended. We talked about ARPA. I don't know, there was an ARPA meeting attended by Cynthia, I believe, what was that, in August? We heard a little bit about the FY24 additional requests, the stipends, some of the things that have come up on today's agenda. We went over the SI submission planning, and we talked about the Placentino and Miller roof and the auditorium wall, but I'm not gonna, are those things that we're gonna kind of update everyone on as well? The roofing project and the auditorium wall?
Roofing project is going along. They're a little behind. They're obviously losing tomorrow. They're going to work the weekend. They expect they may be done with Placentino by the start of school. If there's a drip edge they have to do that doesn't create a lot of noise, but I think we'll be fine with the Placentino end. The Miller one's going to be, the cafeteria one's going to be a little more of a challenge. We're working through some of the challenges with that with regards to James and I have been emailing as we sit here about some of the challenges, just because to do the cafetorium, they need some space to be able to work from. That space is we use with the bus loop, so we're working on it. So we gotta figure something out. So
Problem solver on it, okay.
Yep.
And then the high school auditorium wall, we have,
again, we're looking at trying to get some bid docs out. I know the bid's been put together, so we're working on that now. But again, like we've talked all along, that one we don't mind doing when it's occupied, just because, again, if we need to relocate people, it's 2 classrooms, not like a wing.
got it.
So.
And then I did, if you saw my community letter last night, I did share out that we've heard some complaints, some concerns about the playground at Placentino, a little bit about Miller as well, but Placentino, I think more so.
I mean, the Miller one is again, that's simply the Eastern Massachusetts vendor just doesn't even return calls anymore. they're just so busy that they don't, especially a repair as opposed to a build. So we're not sure what to really do about some of the things there.
Call them and tell you want a new build. Call them and tell you want a new build, and then when he calls you back,
The
PTO talked to
Yep.
them as well, and
Yeah.
it wasn't that they didn't want to return calls as much as they wanted money up front, like they wanted to know that there was funding available before they would, because it was a lot.
And they're looking for like a rebuild versus just a
They-
repair, right? Or you're talking about the-
Well, like the surface.
But the quote they'd given us, and I know prices have gone up, was like in the low 20s, and I know it's about 30 now.
I
But
think even more than that, but.
again, I can't get them to call me back, so you did one better than me, so.
Well, someone on PTO went to their office.
Oh, okay, I haven't driven to Millis yet, I will be the first to say that, but.
No, she, yeah.
it's only in Millis. You can go get some ice cream down there and then just.
But we're working with James Keese right now. First, we're going to see if we can do repairs at
At
Placentino.
Placentino,
And-
one of the elements can't be repaired because it's plastic, and it's never gonna be repaired.
And part of it is looks appeal too, right? It's not, it's maybe not as unsafe as people think. I mean, it's quite rusty, right? But obviously, if we ended up having to replace it, that's a significant cost because it has to be ADA compliant to today's standards.
Some of those structures.
We're looking into that now. Our maintenance director actually was over there today and did a test spot. He wants to see whether the paint takes on it. Takes it, I mean, he wire brushed a section and then painted it, and we'll see if it takes. It's, again, that very often it's powder coated painting, so it doesn't, once it goes, it kind of goes. But we're working with it right now.
We'll update you as to like what, because if it's a significant expense, if we're going to replace, it could be something we may be able to use some one-time funds. We don't know until we get the amount, or it would go to capital for the October meeting.
And the biggest challenge, truthfully, space-wise, would be that if we had to become fully compliant, ADA compliant there, we're probably going to lose elements. It's just, to be able to pick up that much space, so. And not that we shouldn't be fully ADA compliant, but we've been grandfathered in at the laws from 2000 when that was installed, so, it's, again, man, we don't have much space to go. That's the thing, it's not a big space, so.
Anything else from the budget?
No.
Okay.
We're scheduling another meeting, but we don't have a date certain yet.
Okay. Yeah, we should do that. Superintendent's evaluation.
I don't have a date for meeting
Right.
yet, but we should be getting there.
We should schedule one to start going over goals, right?
Yeah, we didn't get as far on our district improvement for year 2 of this line to our strategic plan at the annual retreat, so our team has to work on that, and then I'll be able to align my goals to that, so we're going to work on that as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's definitely, okay. And then we don't really have a start time subcommittee now, I guess we should,
No, it's supposed to be we don't like task force. Not task force. I don't like the word.
it's more like a liaison, sort of, to start time.
Working group?
Working,
That's
I
better.
mean, right now with all the, all the roads dug up.
I know, like,
How long the bridge is.
2 years.
the thing I just think is that we should try at least to sort of do some sort of impact analysis, and it's been difficult because COVID has impacted everything, so even looking at test scores and things like that have just been really, but I think when the previous committee made the change, I think there was sort of a promise made to revisit at least as far as impact goes, and we should just make sure that we're honoring that. Okay, so we have no old business. We're at 8:30, and
What time zone are you in?
Yes.
my own. So, Amanda, you'd asked to put on here.
This is quick. So I feel like we just need to rediscuss. We've discussed this a bunch, but I want to really formally say that I want us to find a way to be able to rent out our auditoriums. Because I know that, like, we said no to a dance studio, maybe Anne Marie's, I think it was Anne Marie's, and we said no to Roberta Weiner at the Piranha Center, that's like the private theater group here in town, and she, like, waited to hear back from Holliston for 3 weeks. She ended up hearing back from Medway in, like, 24 hours and paid them, like, $3,000 to use their auditorium for, like, 2 days. And this is at Medway High School, which is, like, it's brand new, so I'm sure their equipment is like just as
Yes.
nice as ours. And I understand, like, I know the reasoning is that, like, there's a person that needs to run the tech in the auditorium because it's so nice, and that person won't work on certain days. But there's just all these reasons why we can't do it. But I feel like we need to shift that discussion to finding ways that we can do it, because we're just saying no to money, to like easy income.
We also had a very difficult time with dance studios and keeping people from obeying Massachusetts general laws with regards to smoking and drinking on campus.
Yeah.
Okay, but other schools do it. I've been to my daughter's and I have not seen anybody smoking or drinking. Certainly, I didn't anyway. But I'm just saying, other Medway does it all the time. There was, I forget the other school that we went to, but schools are doing it. So
It's fine, it's just, it's gonna cost, and to get the staff, I mean, whether
it's not going to cost them, because you figure out what the cost is, and then you say, what do we want to make as our margin on it, and that's what we charge. And if it's too much and we're not competitive, then they go somewhere else. But at least we make it available.
I will look into it, but again, I'm gonna guess you're not gonna be happy with the answer. It's not having our own custodians on staff is a challenge with regards to making sure something like the stage is prepared. With the amount of drama program that we do have, that stage isn't often available with regards to it being cleared off of things. You know, it's
in the summer.
in the summer, I worry about one thing and one thing only: September 1st. It's getting back to open the next day. The summer is not an effective time for us to be doing things, because I lose either cleaning time, I'll look into it.
Maybe Mr. Listopine has some ideas from Medway, because they do a very nice job of it, and it seems to work.
It's just not Medway, it's almost.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, but Medway, that whole campus, that whole.
Is also another one that
I will
they do
say,
an exceptional job.
in other districts I've worked, we were able to rent facilities, but we had custodial staff that worked at night that we owned and could pay overtime or whatever it was, and that is a struggle, because the cleaners, we outsource.
They don't like to put in a lot of weekends
Yeah.
on during the summer. They just don't.
Yeah, but it's all different times. It just seems like it should be something.
It can't be during the
explore.
week. It can't be during the week. I just would never work during the week here.
Are there
But I mean,
separate
how are
companies
we-
we could contract with for it, though? I don't know. It seems.
I've got to get the school screened.
Says actually, if you rent, say Medway, then it's the renting party which pays for the custodians anyway. So it's not like school is paying.
Right, you just have to have staff to do it. I think
Yeah.
that's what, this is news to me. I wasn't sure what this was about, because I haven't gotten involved in this conversation. This is the first I've heard this conversation,
I've heard
so I
it
don't
too.
know. I didn't know it was an issue, but we'll talk.
Okay.
See if it's ideas we can.
And we did go over the policy when I was on policy last year, and there's nothing in the policy that precludes this, so.
Nope.
And we can certainly come up with a fee policy,
Yeah.
fee schedule and everything. And I mean, again, we may not be competitive given the sort of the uniqueness of our situation, and that's fine. But as long as we sort of have looked at it and have a fee schedule and let people make that choice.
And if that policy is in place, so we can get back to people in a more timely manner as well.
Right. Okay.
I think it's mostly Donna who does it. Donna, right? She does it.
Any more discussion about that one? Okay. Substitute teacher rates of pay.
So I'm going to let Keith talk about the rates that we came up with. He did some research for us. We obviously know that this is another area of concern, because we don't have subs to cover when people are out, or to cover for open positions temporarily as well. So we're proposing some new rates that he's put in red there. Did you want to talk about the way you got the numbers?
Certainly. Contained in your packets is basically, it's our form for substitute rates in the grade red area. Wasn't a good choice of color, obviously. Didn't use my color wheel. Again, in comparing ourselves with the number of my peer districts, with number of my peers in their districts, excuse me, I think all of you know that last year we raised the substitute rates, literally the next day, was it Medway or Ashland raised it above ours again. So it was like, it's like you're chasing your tail a little bit. That being said, I believe, again, we need to do another little tickle here. My recommendations would be to go from a daily sub from 95 to 100. If you do not have a degree, if you have a bachelor's degree or higher, from 100 to 115. Permanent subs, those are the subs that come in that are hired. We call them permanent subs or building subs. They're currently at 125 a day. We found them very valuable, the ones who would do the jobs, but we haven't been able to fill up. We've not been able to fill up all 8 or 10 of our positions, right? 3, and 2, right?
I'm not sure if they filled them, but I saw some applicants on one.
But again, we've never had all of them. So again, to raise that rate, to just make it a little more attractive, leaving the long-term sub rate alone, and then the intermediate term sub rate, we still want that to be a little bit higher than the permanent sub. The permanent sub is more of a generalist. The intermediate term sub is going to be specifically replacing one teacher on an ongoing basis for that 90 days or less period. So raising that to 140. And then the paraprofessional rates for first 15 days from $75 to $90 a day to at least get us kind of to minimum wage. We don't have to follow Massachusetts minimum wage, just as a quick little thing. Being a municipality, we follow federal minimum wage, not Massachusetts, but it doesn't help you in a competitive basis. So to raise the compensation for of a daily sub for days 1 to 15 to $90, and then from following along the $5 more to after you've done 15 days. So
I have 2 stupid questions. For the daily sub, we're just sort of increasing the spread between the no degree and the is that?
we just want to give more. Most of the no degree people are college students. In all honesty, they are the college students who come back in, around Christmas time and then around the end of the school year, the May time frame. Right. They like doing it.
And you get a lot of.
And we have a lot of
very
options.
short duration.
It's not.
So it's not as competitive with.
Correct. That's not as big a deal. We don't get a lot of non-degree people applying for sub jobs.
Okay. So most of them have bachelor's degrees. So most on the ongoing
Exactly.
basis. Okay. And so the second question: why effective 9/1 rather than 8/28?
8/28 is fine. That's fine. That's not a stupid question. I just picked 9/1 just because it started a school year. To me, started a school year September 1st.
8/29.
8/29.
It's the first day of school.
I mean, if you need to sub the first day of school, you're probably. I get it, but at the same time, you
Let's
never.
hope we don't, but. And 9/1's PD, so we wouldn't need any subs on 9/1.
You don't know that.
So does this put us in line with, say, our neighbor districts? Are we going to get outbid by Ashland tomorrow?
It may happen. I can't tell you that.
But it's something.
But this is a step in the right direction.
Okay.
I mean, if Keith says it's okay, I say it's okay. It's not usually that you're asking us for money, it's usually the other way
And
around.
I think, we know we
Not
have,
the first one that
this
said
is
that
our
either.
last year of our ESSER 3, so we can offset right now, but moving forward, this is now, it becomes a longer situation. Right. To figure out.
I'm going to recuse myself on deliberating and voting on it just because I do have a family member who had applied to be a sub, so it's not appropriate for me to deliberate on it or vote.
Okay.
Okay. I move that we increase the
We can just
substitute per Mr. Boudet's proposal
Effective
as
9.
effective 8/29,
So that's-
2023.
I second that.
Okay. Any further deliberations of 8? All's in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Same 1. So 5-0-1. I'm just going to alert. Ashland already raised theirs.
This just is.
All right. Okay, so as Dr. Kuska discussed, with the para things, in addition to the increases in starting salary and all these sort of salaries, I know you've been working on something with a referral bonus, and I don't know where we exactly are, but I wanted to put it on here so that we could discuss it. As far as open goes, because we kind of had the pair discussion in an executive session as far as that goes, and then just sort of, well, I'm not sure it's technically necessary given the funding source, just sort of give an advisory vote, if you will, sort of our approval.
Yeah. So I mentioned it earlier, and I did sign it today. I'm just waiting for the signed copy, and then I can share out with staff that we're looking to add a $500 referral one-time bonus that they would get mid-year and end-of-year, $250 and $250. Obviously encourage people to come that might not know that we're looking right now, and if they have friends that are interested, but it would not just be it would be primarily for our paraprofessional staff to be brought in, but it could also be a building sub or other position is a need at different times as well. We're not looking to do this for educators right now because that's not our area of concern right now. We have most of that full. That could potentially change, but right now we're really thinking of our support staff roles that have been harder to fill. And any staff member any current staff member could get that referral, not just an HFT member.
Right, so it's not, you could be any staff member referring someone, and then you receive that referral bonus.
Should they
It's not
be
limited to
hired
professionals.
and be
hired
retained?
and
I mean, we don't want
retained.
someone that
Correct.
just
And as long as
signs
they're
up
not their
and leaves in a week.
supervisor.
Yes.
It's for referring a paraprofessional who is then hired.
It could
other
be
support
other
staff.
support staff.
Or tutor or
Yeah.
things like
Right.
that.
But not a teacher.
But it turns our 500 employees into not headhunters, but into recruiters, right? So, I mean, you now have 500 people incentivized to, I mean, not that maybe they weren't already, but just, sort of
And
further.
and we're looking for just this 1 year because
Right.
really this is the year we're focused on. And, we do feel that the ESSER 3 will get us through because we're not thinking this is going to be a huge amount.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk about there's 20 openings, this is 10 grand, so,
At most.
at most. For like one person, they really hustle.
I know, right? Could be.
So is it
School
a
committee's not
motion
eligible, by the way.
in favor of a one-time referral bonus for referring, how do we want to look at it?
Paraprofessionals and support staff.
Paraprofessionals.
For referral bonuses for paraprofessionals and support staff, the amount of $500 for this.
Available to all staff for FY '23-24 only.
Right.
Second.
Any further deliberation, debate? All's in favor? Aye. Carries. Newsletter.
We do not have a newsletter.
We do not have a newsletter. Policy subcommittee, he's moving on to items of information.
Yeah.
Just information.
Information, perfect. Thank you. Okay, we've actually gotten there. And we've made up some time now. We're only an hour behind instead of an hour and a half that we were running beforehand. So now that we have reached the end of our agenda, our next scheduled meeting is September 14th.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, we do have an executive session scheduled, so we need a motion to.
Motion to adjourn to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, from which we will not return.
Second.
Roll call, I think.
Okay, this does require a roll call vote. Sarah? Amanda?
Yes.
Minnie?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
And Dan, yes. So with that, we are adjourned. Good night and have a great first day of school next week.